that provides for Black people, all people of color in this community, in the areas of economic development, health, voter services, public education, housing, transportation, and all institutions where we seek equity and fairness. Welcome to our candidate forum of the evening. Welcome to our candidates, and thank you all for participating. Thank you to our audience that's joining us this evening in person here as well as virtually. At this time, we would like to acknowledge any elected officials who are not participating in the forum. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Just a reminder, this is a forum, not a debate. Our moderator, yours truly, will go into the format of the evening program shortly, but a few housekeeping items. The High Point NAACP leadership team created the forum questions, which reflect the state of the city of High Point, primarily populated by Black people and people of color, and all citizens. Each candidate will be given equal time to present themselves and answer questions. Members of the audience can use the 3x5 cards that you received upon entry or that you're receiving now. If you just raise your hand, those cards will be picked up when you raise your hand that you have completed them. And the cards will be handed to our legibility team. Our legibility team will have your questions to the moderator. The final 10 minutes of the forum, to the extent that we can, will be devoted to questions from the audience. We most likely will not get to all the questions, but please be patient. Each question asked will be answered by all candidates, and they will have 1 minute to answer those responses. The forum is currently on Facebook and YouTube, and will be available on YouTube for review at your leisure. Please visit the NAACP table in the back for great information and education. The vote411.org bookmarks is provided by the League of Women Voters, the Piedmont Triad. Vote111.org is a nonpartisan election website. You can find the latest information about voting and find polling places and, more importantly, more candidate profiles that you can compare. Plug in your address and you can see your local races. Thanks to the voter services team for their hard work in reaching out to all of our candidates to make sure they are represented. As always, we want to achieve 100% participation. We will begin the forum by introducing the candidates for the mayor of the great city of High Point, North Carolina. Councilman Cyril Jefferson, Councilman Jefferson. Councilman Victor Jones, Councilman Jones. Mr. Gene Kinema, Mr. Kinema. I'll read the rules. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for opening remarks. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. Please limit your responses to your own ideas and your own campaign. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions from the audience. Each candidate agrees to the public view of the forum by participating in the forum. Each candidate agrees to participate in the candidate forum as stated in your letter of invitation. All candidate remarks will be timed to ensure equal opportunity to speak. There will be 2 timekeepers. One person will keep track of the time using a smartphone. The other will hold up a sign for 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. Timekeepers, please identify yourselves and hold up your call. Thank you. I will rotate the order of questions so that each candidate has an opportunity to start first. Gentlemen, are you ready? Okay. If you are elected mayor, what are your top 3 priorities for High Point, and how will you achieve these priorities? Councilman Jefferson.
Madam President, thank you so much for hosting this forum, and allow me to just say to everyone, serious apologies for walking in late. I appreciate every single person being here with us. If elected as mayor, in terms of what the priorities are, I think the priorities are clear. All of us as High Point residents who pay our taxes, who live in our homes, who have been raised here, or maybe we moved here, you trust that this city government does a job for you. You trust that this city government will focus on a strong economy. You trust that this city government will prioritize safe neighborhoods. And you trust that this city government will care about your quality of life. So when it comes to the work that we will prioritize, it'll be work that will continue leading that we've done these past 7 years. When we raised millions of dollars to help entrepreneurs here in the city, it was because we knew that a good economy is one in which local business is prioritized. We did that in partnership with President Cubain from High Point University, and then we continued that work going forward when we recruited the professional soccer team, which brought millions more in private investment. I was proud that that work then was invited and fostered into an opportunity to look at how we can revitalize the Washington Street corridor and look at other parts of our city. Honestly, I do believe that as we do this work, if we want to have that quality of life, if we want safe neighborhoods, as I've learned from Mayor Sims in the past, you cannot talk about violence, you cannot talk about quality of life, you cannot talk about safe neighborhoods without talking about the economics. And so what I prioritize, continue to prioritize, is inclusive policies that don't just reach the few, but inclusive policies that take into consideration every corner of our community and every single stakeholder, such that each industry is strong and that matters is felt by every single neighborhood. Thank you.
Sure. After 6 years of doing this, my priorities for the city have been priorities that have been brought to my attention for 6 years. I believe those priorities are, first and foremost, economic development. High Point is still recovering from the mass exodus of jobs and industries that left when NAFTA took furniture and textiles away from us. That left multiple zip codes with disparity, with people that remember what it was like to have job opportunities within their zip code. The good thing about that is we still got a lot of empty buildings that can be filled. And the good thing about empty buildings is there's all kinds of creative incentives that our council has used for 6 years that I've been on council and can continue to use. Facade grants, building reuse grants, all kinds of things we can do to attract jobs. My vision would be to fulfill that vision would be to have companies with high-paying jobs, high-wage jobs, skilled jobs, specifically jobs that don't require college degrees. So I think there's a much easier pathway to prosperity if you can find skilled labor jobs. Public safety has always been my priority. I serve as the chairman of the Public Safety Committee. I believe in supporting our law enforcement officers. I believe in supporting fire, making sure their wages and benefits are competitive and attractive so that we can keep them and bring them in and retain them. And lastly, we stable cost of living. If we make bad decisions as a city council and then the taxes go up, that increases your rent, that increases your mortgage, that increases what you pay at the pump. Everything that we do has a ripple effect as your council. So we have to be creative and innovative. We also have to be fiscally responsible to make sure that what we do doesn't have a negative impact on those who are in the
So my 3 priorities, if elected mayor, will be restoring dignity, purpose, and self-respect to everybody in the community in the city, but especially people living in communities that have been marginalized by federal laws, local laws, municipal laws, slavery, redlining, discrimination. You've all seen the videos online. People fighting in airplanes. I've been flying airplanes since I was 13 years old. That never happened back then, but there are so many people fighting on planes today. And I wonder why. Well, what happens when you go to the airport? You get into this tightly corralled line with a lot of other people you don't know. You're told to take off your shoes, take off your belt, expose all your personal belongings in your bags, to go through an X-ray. You stand up in front of an X-ray, and you then have to put all your clothes back on. You finally get on the plane. All these people are going through the same experience. They're aggravated and they're upset by that. And we've had generations of this going on in the south side of High Point and in cities all across the country. When you don't have dignity and self-respect, you don't have civility in society. Without civility, you don't have kids learning in schools. They get drawn to the streets instead. Our biggest crime right now increases amongst kids 12 to 16 years old. We need policies that can restore strong family values and dignity and self-respect to our community. Thank you.
You almost suppressed it. Second, what? Then the time frame. Number two, previous councils have failed in their attempts to adopt a fair housing ordinance in the city of High Point. Currently, High Point is the only city in the triad whose human relations department does not have the authority to investigate fair housing complaints or to cite landlords who are not adhering to the law regarding the rights of their tenants according to the Federal Housing Act. This act dictates substantially a code of law that requires landlords to maintain decent, safe, and sanitary housing and prohibits illegal practice. Mayor, what would be your position on adopting a fair housing ordinance for the city of High Point to ensure more efficiently and more effectively managed complaints at the Human Relations Department level, instead of sending High Point tenants with complaints to Rob? Councilman Jones?
Ladies and gentlemen, my first term in office, I spent the first 2 years in office on the Human Relations Committee, and I asked them the same questions out there. So I asked them, well, how does this process work? How does somebody file a grievance, and what happens from there? And we actually had a gentleman compromise. Well, nobody actually goes to Rob. We actually have an office here in High Point that communicates with us, but they have investigators here in the Triad area. The main reason that we don't have an in-house person on our payroll is because of our population size. The smallest city in North Carolina that has an in-house is Winston-Salem, 250,000 people. They do that because that's a population size that's large enough to justify having somebody on payroll that you have to pay for. You have to remember, every time you have an idea to say the city should pay for something, you should put the word citizen. Because every idea you come, we can do it, we can approve it. And they would have to send you the bill in office. There were some discrepancies in the report. I did the research, there's about 10 hours of research on this and pulled that data. It would not have been $70,000. It would have been Chapel, Orange County's impact was $450,000 to $550,000. And if I felt that was a need that we need to fill, I would have definitely put it in the budget somehow, found a way to do it. But when I actually had staff pull the data, 2021 and 2022, we only had 12 cases in the city of High Point. I actually felt relieved that a city this size with only 12 cases. As a disabled veteran, I wanted to see how many of those had to do with disabilities. Over 50% of them were claims because the landlord didn't know they had to accommodate the ramp or wheelchair access. That was what was the problem, and they're all fixed before it ever went to actual cases. Only one of them was racial bias. And so I was relieved to know that our city doesn't have a fair housing issue. It doesn't have to do anything with minimum housing standards or housing condition, rent prices, or any of those things. I'm glad and relieved we don't have an issue. Right now, all those cases are handled for free. We don't have to pay for it through the Raleigh office, but through the local representatives.
So having not been on council for the past 4 years, I'm not going to say one way or another if High Point is big enough to warrant having a housing officer on the city payroll. However, your home is your castle. It's where you live, it's where you raise your family. And sometimes I think just because there haven't been complaints at some point people just give up. They just stop trying. They just feel like the system is working against them. When they feel like the person that they have to call is in Raleigh, I'm sure there are investigators here in the triad, but I have a feeling when they wouldn't make that phone call goes to Raleigh. And that's as off-putting as anything. We need to take care of people here in High Point. As mayor, my goal will be to increase home ownership, especially on the south side. Because when you own your own home, you have pride in yourself that picks up, your kids pick up on it. Owning your own home is the American dream. And in High Point, home ownership rates amongst African Americans are 30% below whites in High Point. 30% below. We need to improve that. In the last 4 years, home ownership rates amongst African Americans has declined in one of the biggest booming eras of our lifetimes. In the last 4 years, home ownership rates amongst white High Pointers have gone up. So we're going in the wrong direction in the south side of High Point. We can do a lot better. I really believe home ownership is something that council should have their focus on much more than rental assistance or subsidies or anything like that. But there's an assortment of things that have to be done. Thank you.
We good to go. Thank you. So this issue came up, and I just want to be honest with folks. I want to come a little bit closer. So I want to talk about this on a level that I think many of us can understand. Fair housing came up as an issue early on in our term. And when it came before council, we were just one vote shy of getting it passed. We had a majority, a simple majority, but we needed a super majority for it to pass. And it fell short by one vote. And it fell short by one vote, despite the fact that the same one vote who voted against it endorsed it when we were in committee. Now, when we talk about fair housing, we talk about discrimination, and we have to talk about the dollars of that. I think there's some of us who recognize the economic impact of discrimination much more than others. When you face the fear and threat of not having a place to stay, as a husband and father, when I consider that there's a potential for discrimination in which my kids may not have a shelter, am I going to sit here and count the dollars and quarters with you and tell you that taxpayers would have to pay to avoid discrimination? Right now, if Raleigh's handling it, to be clear, that's a state government. That means taxes are already paying for it, but we're asking our residents to call someone 90 minutes away and ask them to care about High Point's concerns. If we had an office right here who could handle those issues, then that gives us a little more teeth on the issue and ensure that we can advocate and educate our community. There are folks being discriminated against and they may not even know it, but a local office gives the opportunity to create awareness, to create education, and then your council that you voted can ensure that you and your neighbors and your family are not facing that discrimination. I believe that this fall, with the right votes, then we can make that opportunity happen. Thank you.
High Point is on the cutting edge of a prosperous economic environment. The 300 Oak Street project, scheduled for completion in the next 5 years, brings to High Point a small-scale manufacturing center, workforce development center, shared kitchen space, co-working spaces, and a business accelerator center. While it is in the 27260 zip code, where lowest adjusted gross incomes exist in the state, and while we understand the goal is to enhance the economics of 27260, it is displaced from the core of the Black community. How can we ensure that this project is accessible to the Black community and all communities of color, so that these communities can have access and thrive in this prosperous economic environment? Mr. Kennedy.
Well, this is going to be just a fantastic asset for the city in the near future and for the great future. It's really, really critical that whenever the city of High Point invests heavily in new projects such as this, that they really do the outreach that's necessary into the community to make sure everybody has an advantage in taking advantage of that. I'll give you an example. We're about to have a new senior centre built in this city. And more recently, I've heard that the senior centre is going to be expanded to become an activity centre for people of all ages. And that's wonderful. But, you know, I see a lot of things that have been missing on the south side. And I asked the question, the city staff 2 weeks ago, why is this getting built at Oakview? You know, what's happening down on the south side? And they said, well, we did surveyed all the people. And they said, this is where they want it to be. And I said, well, who did you survey? And they said, we surveyed people showing up to the senior centre where it is now, which is on the north side. I'm like, what kind of response did you expect if you surveyed the people who are already on the north side? So we've got to make sure these things don't keep reoccurring. And you know, I was sitting next to Tasha Logan before we were having a conversation, and I said to her senior VP, you need to redo that survey. Personally, we need to build one on the south as well, so that everybody in the city has access to these types of facilities, especially the exciting things that are happening at Oak Grove. Thank you.
Councilman Jackson.
The questions about 300 Oak, Madam President.
Yes.
So 300 Oak presents a real workforce development opportunity. The money that we receive is really because we want to ensure our folks can get back working and that our small businesses can be supported. Now, the question is, how do we ensure with it not being in the core of neighborhoods, people of color, that folks can still access it? We secured $20 million to ensure that the Greenway on south side and east side of town connects you right to where this 300 Oak Street will be. Because we believe that in many cases, public transportation still has broken system set up right now, that we've got to ensure that we can create walkability and people being able to bike ride. But where some other opportunities present themselves is where we've commissioned a study right now where $100,000 is being invested for us to begin planning and designing a micro hub that's going to go into 5 Points. Now that micro transportation hub in 5 Points will help speed up some of our ridership, which connects folks from the east side and south sides of town to different jobs that are in different places. In terms of 300 Oak and what that opportunity presents, is that ultimately what we see is that there are new career pathways on the horizon. So we've been partnering with folks within our philanthropic sector, nonprofit sector, at the state level and federal level to bring in those funds because we want to get our youth into some of these career pathways much sooner. We've learned through studies that kids who play video games can be introduced to incredible career fields in information technology, computer science, and so many other things. So this project presents the path for us to open that door up. We've got our school system and other partners at the table, and 300 Oak is going to be another way for us to get our folks jobs and help our youth with new opportunities.
Sure. So our council went to staff and said we wanted to create a catalyst too. We did the downtown catalyst, so we want to do something in the south side of High Point. What can we do? And one of the ideas was small scale manufacturing, staff facility 300 Oak. We secured that. We've got $6 million committed from the city, $4 million in federal funds, for a total of $6 million. That's just for the 62,000 square foot building that will have the small scale manufacturing, business incubator, all kinds of things. Our hope is that will spark entrepreneurship in that part of town. A separate project is a shared use kitchen, which is $2 million from the city, $2 million from federal dollars. That will be a shared use kitchen for if you're an aspiring culinary entrepreneur, you can start your business there. As it goes and expands, you can graduate to a bigger facility and move out of that. That's our hope and our vision for that project. But many of you may know I'm in the transportation business. Been in it for 14 years. I think all in North Carolina State Fair transportation next month. And I went to staff. We did a needs analysis of transportation needs in the city. We realized we need to expand our bus routes. We need to extend the hours. The problem was always CDL drivers. And I can tell you, as of Thursday of last week, we've hired new drivers. We've gotten our headway down from 1 hour to half hour. And by the end of this year, we'll be able to expand those drivers. We've already got the drivers in training, so that will be solved 2023. The thing that Cheryl talked about with the micro hub, the grant did not go through as of this morning, but we are seeking another grant to secure that property, secure the property in 5 Points area. It's been about $250,000 to the property, And then we got to go fund that. So yes, we're on the works. We've been talking about that for several years. We've got a lot of improvements to our transportation grid that I've always supported. I know that we need because people need to get to jobs, medical appointments, church, wherever they need to go. And if they want to not use a vehicle, or they just don't want to afford to use a vehicle, either whatever reason, I want to support them and give them that means of transportation. If that's their preference.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is the catchphrase of the century. Companies, civic organizations, governances, all have DEI statements, but without viable, sustainable strategy to execute policy to drive the state. Good faith effort is stated in theory, but in fact, the goal of DEI is not fully achieved, and contrary to the belief of some, all is not well and high point in this space. If elected as mayor, how will you level the playing field and create an inclusive culture in the city of High Point, where Black-owned businesses and disproportionately represented populations can participate in contracting the city of High Point in fairness, equity, and creating opportunities so that all can thrive, just as our white colleagues and white-owned businesses thrive? Councilman Jefferson.
So diversity, equity, and inclusion was on the very first agenda item as soon as we came into office. Within the first 6 months, we voted and enacted a sweeping diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative for the city. Because what we learned was we needed more fair hiring practices. We needed to ensure that people working within our workforce who wanted leadership opportunities, that they weren't being passed up on because someone else was being tapped on the shoulder. We were aware that there was a good old boys sort of club, if you know what I mean, and that not everyone was reaching those opportunities. So we enacted it. We also that same month accepted the resignation of our former city manager. George Floyd got murdered later that month, if you recall, in May 2020. And that summer, we all marched together hand in hand, believing that we could do more work here in our city. The way we carried that forward and the way that we will continue to carry that forward over these next several years is the work that I've begun with our furniture market. When I came into office, I sat down with a number of leaders, including Tony Collins, who said, Cyril, this market is the largest economic engine. It's the largest economic event in the entire state of North Carolina. It has an economic impact of 4 Super Bowls every single time we do it. So I was pleased and thrilled, not only when the CEO invited me in of the Market Authority to begin talking about it, but when we enacted the Diversity Advocacy Alliance that's looking at how to ensure that market is more inclusive, to ensure supplier diversity, so that way minority and women-owned businesses can get access to so many dollars that come through that market. And we're looking to grow that market even more. And that was shown when the now retired CEO endorsed my campaign, because he recognized that doing DEI wasn't just a good thing, but it was good for business too. And so now we are carrying a message forward that High Point is open for business, that we are inclusive, we are that international city, and we're ensuring that our biggest economic engines are playing the game too.
Sure. When I first came on council in 2017, the mayor, because of my financial background, put me on the finance committee immediately. That would be my best use of my skills. And we oversee those contracts. We oversee all the city contracting. The other thing we do is we oversee HR and all the hiring practices, and we convene on that. And so the DEI thing would more oversee our hiring practices. We've got 1,400 employees, so we want to make sure that our hiring practices are fair and equitable. So that's what I said. Yeah, we hired a DEI specialist at the city, July Biggs. He's been doing a great job. When it came to the NWB contracting, we were already hitting our metrics at 10%. The challenge for us is by law, we have to pick the lowest responsibility. So we can't prioritize if they're not the lowest responsibility. We have to be good stewards of the taxpayer money, but it's the law. So I think with the MWB coordinator, they will be helpful to reach out to minority and women-owned businesses out in the community and help them figure out how to contract with the city. If they need to do things to be more competitive, to go through those processes as well. I'm interested to see how that program, we just hired that position recently, and to see how that develops over the next couple of years. As the mayor, I want to make sure that all those programs are successful. The city's doing everything we can to be the most inclusive and be fair and give the people opportunity.
So I think when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Education goes a long way. A lot of people just have no idea how unlevel the playing field starts for so many people in this city. Too many people have been left behind. I was one of those people. Until my boys, Jack and Harry, who are 14 and 12, we enrolled them into Alan J. Pratt Middle School, fantastic school. But until we enrolled them into that school, we had no idea that there was this other side of High Point that was struggling so much. The reports came home, and I'm grateful that both my kids getting great grades, but then they had the class averages, and the class averages more than half are failing. So when you start at that point, it really makes it hard to make up for it. At some point down the road, we get to trying to decide who gets a contract from City Hall. Okay, if we're going to really be honest about it, we need to educate everyone in High Point, and it's going to be tough. I've been knocking on doors in North High Point trying to tell us the reason why I'm running for mayor, and the answer too many times is, hey, I could work hard and bootstrap to get what I've got. Why should I give anybody else help? And that is a common response. And I don't think it's because they're innately having racist thoughts towards people over here. It's because they just don't know how bad the start has been. When you have generational poverty in the community and kids grow up in that, they see their parents have lost hope, they don't have hope, they come to the classroom, they act out, they then get drawn onto the streets. So when it comes to a successful DEI program, it comes to having programs that lifts everybody up in the city. And that's what I have to bring as mayor. Thank you.
One of the steps of the High Point Commission's recommendations is to establish a truth reconciliation process to facilitate shared understanding for the public support. As High Point reaches its fullest potential on the road to incorporating restorative policy, in your estimation, what is the truth and reconciliation? And how will the creation of a public-private commission promote shared community understanding? Councilman Jefferson.
Madam President, if you don't mind, I just want to make sure that we can fact check something really quickly. I believe that for residents, we have to get the truth, and I would pay for you all to not get correct facts. High Point is not at 10% participation rate for our minority women business enterprises. I wouldn't want that lost on us. In fact, the reason why we enacted the NWB department is for a motion that was made in August 2020, when we learned that of the $9 million that went to contracts, only 100,000 of those actually went to minority-owned business. So 9,100,000 went to minority-owned businesses. The One High Point Commission did its report last night and immediately told us that we need to do more with business and fix our government services. We voted to accept it, receive it, and direct staff. Then everyone left the council chambers, but I hope that folks will stay, because the very next agenda item was to look at a disparity study to say, is the city spending money correctly? And so with that, I just want to bring it up, because if we're talking about NWBE and we feel like the city's doing a great job, a disparity study from ARPA dollars that was going to fund that should have been something that everyone was supported. But you can fact check and look at the minutes. It was not supported by everyone, and it wasn't supported by every single mayoral candidate. So if we're going to talk about the facts, I want to make sure that we keep it straight. The Truth and Reconciliation Committee would make sure that we can hold us accountable and fact check when people say things like that. Thank you.
The Truth and Reconciliation Committee goes along with one of the things I've always advocated for is more transparency between me and my constituents. The last 6 years, I've had more town halls than any council member on the council. I try to do at least 2 a year. I don't think you should have to come down on a Monday night once or twice a month to hear what we're doing, and that'd be the only avenue of communication that you have. I feel like when I have town halls, that's me coming off the dais and coming into the community and being present. I bring in the police chief, I bring in DOT, I bring Parks and Rec, whatever I'm hearing about from Facebook, Nextdoor, whatever people ask me questions about. I don't want to just email it to them. I want to bring somebody who can answer the questions in person. I can tell you from the residents of Ward 5, the last 6 years, it's been very beneficial. I've heard people tell me for the first time they feel they have an elected official that's present, that hears their concerns and is aware of what's going on, and wants to represent them better. I want to do the citywide. What I'm calling is going to be the citywide town halls, just like we do National Night Out. We have that event all across the city. I like to have twice a year, spring and fall, town halls for every ward, 1 through 6, and they'll be going on all across the city. As your mayor, I'm to go to a couple, hit a couple one time, hit a couple the next. I'll do the same thing with whoever ends up being the at-large council members. I think we need to do a better job of showing up and being present and knowing that we're not just guys. I want somebody to be able to call me and get me on the phone and you can test me tomorrow if you want to. Call any candidate for mayor. I promise you I'll be the first one you get a hold of.
I think when we're talking about truth and reconciliation, we're talking about healing. And I think there's still a lot of healing to be done in the city of High Point. Some people don't realize that. I think if our city hall, our city council is really leading, we don't need a truth and reconciliation commission. But we have not had the leadership. We've had infighting. We've had different disparaging moments throughout the last 4 to 6 years. I think we are past time that the mayor of High Point apologise for the atrocities of the past in the city. That should have happened last night. Should have happened last night. And that's the beginning of the healing process. I hope our next mayor will make that step and apologise on behalf of the city for the atrocities of the past. You do that, and then to move on, you start talking about, well, where has the most damage been done and what can we do to fix that? My plan as elected mayor is to create a $100 million loan pool to offer no money down mortgages to people on the south side, regardless of race, but in the neighbourhoods that have been most damaged by historical atrocities. Low interest rates subsidised by the city, and there are models for this all over the country. I mean, Habitat for Humanity does this, but there are other cities that are doing this now. And $100 million, it's only going to be the start. It'll be a lot more by the time we're done, but I don't want to scare people, but we need to increase home ownership rates. When you increase home ownership rates, you develop more pride in the family. Nothing gives a family more pride than owning their own home. And kids pick up on that. Thank you.
A standard setting remains the gold standard for determining equity in contracting by attracting good faith efforts in contracting with municipalities throughout the state of North Carolina and beyond. How will you, as mayor, champion this method of identifying deficiencies and awarding contracts to women and minority businesses with the city of High Point? Councilman Jones.
I think we've already hired staff that's on our payroll to ensure MWB participation and to make sure our practices are fair. I don't even spend $350,000 of your money to tell you that we've had a pass that I'm not proud of in this country. I can tell you that for free. What I don't like is when we're taking your tax dollars and trying to make this city better, rather than putting together infrastructure, fixing up neighborhoods, giving kids broadband that need to do their homework at night, we're taking $350,000 of your money that can go right into infrastructure into your neighborhoods, and we're mailing a check up to some consultant in Raleigh. I don't see the direct benefit for the folks here in High Point. I was at the Washington Street Neighborhood Association a couple months ago with some of the leadership there, and they're not getting answers. They're not getting infrastructure, they're not getting support from the city. They say it's been a long time since we got that support. I just have a rub when I see that check going in the mail to some outside the city when it needs to go right here in the city.
Mr. Kidman.
I actually agree with Victor on this one. The disparities are so significant. We do not need to pay a consultant $350,000 to tell us what's wrong in our community, especially one, I think it's a actually. There is so much that can be done. I think, for example, if I was going to spend $350,000, knowing from knocking on people's doors on the north side of town, they just don't understand the history of this city, I would go to the One High Point Commission and say, hey, we loved that video you made at the end of your commission. I was actually embarrassed to be part of it because I only went to one meeting and there I was in the video. But we love that. Can you make another one, telling the same sort of stories that the city of High Point, not just the commission, the city of High Point can present to everybody in the city to really let them know where the needs are, why we have those needs, and what we can do about it. Thank you.
Madam President, I want to make sure to make some things pretty clear for everyone tonight. So the disparity study is not simply saying, did something wrong happen in our country? We all know that. But the disparity study gives you the legal grounds to better prepare and build capacity within your government to do business with minority and women business enterprises. Because if you don't do that study and you try to do a program, it can get shut down. We've been seeing in the Supreme Court what they did with affirmative action. We saw in the General Assembly that they are taking on every single government and university who does anything related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the only way that you can enact a program and not be attacked in the courts or by your General Assembly is you have to do a disparity study. So if we said today that we were going to beef up that program, then either one of those bodies came after us, we'd be shut down. But if we do the study first, we have the legal grounds to do it. And when we talk about taking taxpayer dollars and spending it, this money would come from ARPA dollars. ARPA dollars were meant to help us rescue ourselves from what happened during the COVID pandemic. $350,000 certainly seems like a lot, but to have the legal grounds to ensure that number I told you before, where the city did $9 million in contract and they gave $100,000 of that to minority-owned businesses. That means $8.9 million went to white-owned businesses here in the city. Now, anyone who's been following this, who comes to city council meetings, knows you need a legal grounds in order to actually fix that problem. So when folks talk to you about a disparity study, I just want to make sure we're talking facts. It's not just to talk about slavery. A disparity study gives you the legal grounds to ensure this city does business the way it's supposed to do.
This question is our last question from the moderator, and we'll start getting your questions from the audience over to our legibility team. Ladies, we appreciate it so that we can move expediently. Transparency is a core value and an asset in building a strong brand. The city of High Point is in the throes of strengthening its brand awareness. The High Point NAACP is poised to become an asset to this great city with a willing heart, a willing spirit, and a plan to work in partnership as we move forward together. One High Point, one community. We are an ally, not an adversary. As the city of High Point prepares its greatness, can you envision a partnership with the High Point NAACP centered in transparency and inclusiveness to achieve the greater good for our city? And what are your thoughts on how we work together to strengthen this partnership? Mr. Kennedy.
Well, thank you for the question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. Working with the NAACP, the Muslim community, all the churches, we need to know where the needs are greatest in the city to move forward. And we need to move forward in an extremely transparent way. We've had things happen in the city in the last 4 years behind closed doors that there's been no explanation for. Now, some of you who are close to council might know the backroom stories as to why people suddenly disappeared and were replaced and others were then replaced, but we really don't, as general citizens, we don't have any idea what has been going on. So transparency is important, because what happens if you're not transparent, especially as we begin these new initiatives that are going to lift up the High Point and all people of colour. If you're not transparent, you risk people on the other side of town or other skin colour. You risk them thinking you're overreaching, you're taking something from them, and then they will push back or they will leave. So if you don't do it in a transparent way, you will never have one High Point. And I think that's got to be the goal of all of us, to be just one city where we all give each other a hand up. Thank you.
So to address some of the issues that we've been hearing about, whenever we have a closed session and we talk about personnel, by law, we cannot talk about that publicly because personnel issues are protected by closed session laws, because otherwise, if we air that stuff in the public, your city government gets sued, and then there goes those tax dollars that we don't want being wasted going somewhere. But I want to talk about how we can do transparency and how we can do partnership. So in terms of transparency, what we proposed on council, several of us, was that city council meetings begin to not only be audio recorded, because we were able to get that done successfully, but to also be video recorded. Because we know that there are many residents who work jobs that maybe they cannot make it down to City Hall. We have public transportation that stops at 6 p.m. And so folks need to ride buses to get to City Hall for those meetings. They just couldn't. And so we've advocated for those video recordings to ensure that all folks can have transparency to see it. And then if you have questions in terms of how I partner with the NAACP, well, as a card-holding member of the NAACP who pays my dues on time every year, I'm committed to partner with the NAACP in every single organization to ensure that our government does its just due. Many of you all have gotten the text messages and emails and phone calls from me when we're having an agenda item to say, hey, FYI, this is coming up tonight. I want to make sure that you don't miss it. Oh, and by the way, if you don't talk about it in public comment, you won't have a chance to speak. Because for me, it is important that our people get that information because, again, for so long, we've been left out of it. Government has a role of transparency because it's a government for the people, by the people.
I not only want to treat the NLC as a partner, I'll tell you why. We are a representative government, and we are charged with representing you in your best interests. And we're not effective at doing that unless you have a good line of communication with us. Unless we are accessible to you, you feel like you can get in touch with your council representative. I can't know all the needs and things that you are passionate about or what's going on in the community as your mayor. It's 114,000 people. I need the commissioners and the people that are leadership of NAACP to have a good relationship with me as a mayor. So that you can come and say, hey, this is what we had in our meeting last night. This is what the topics we were talking about. These are the things that are important to us. So I not only want to maintain that valuable relationship, I'm looking for it to grow. You know, I had lunch with Rob Sims, Brenda Dietz, and we had coffee with Dr. Hairston. I spent an hour and a half with each one of them in the last few weeks so that I could do as much research and get as many of my questions answered so that I can be prepared for last night's vote. I didn't want to just stop and read the paperwork. I wanted to have those conversations. And the cool thing is, I got to know them a little bit better. And I feel like they know me a little bit better. So if I can thank God for anything for the last 6 years, I've got to meet so many cool people here, and I hope that that relationship will grow and that the NAACP will continue to be a partner and a conduit to get information from the community to our council. So we need your input. Thank you.
Now, questions from the audience, you will have 1 minute to answer. The first question is, we continue to hear about all of the attention given to our core area. What exactly is the core area? Do these boundaries include the 27260 area, zip code, or marginalized communities? Mr. Kennedy, 1 minute.
And if we could, for some visibility for the people online, if we could ask you guys to stay on the stage and stay in that range, just so the camera can pick you guys up for questions. Thank you.
So I believe some of the call may stretch into 21760. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
We continue to hear about all the attention given to our core area. What exactly is the core area? Does these boundaries include the 27260 area code or marginalized communities?
So I think 300 Oak might perhaps be contiguous to what people consider as the core area. Most people, I think, in the city think of the core area as the Catalyst District, which has received a lot of attention, a lot of city attention, a lot of city dollars. We really need to increase our focus so that marginalized areas do get more in the future. As I said earlier, North High Point is getting a senior center, activity center. We need one in South High Point. Absolutely, 100% for sure. We're getting homeless shelter in South High Point, which clearly is needed, but we need more for just everyday citizens.
Councilman Jefferson?
So the core. Thank you, Chris. So the core absolutely does include many census tracts from the 27260 zip code. It includes Southside, it includes areas along Washington Street, it includes University, it includes West Green and East Green. There are many census tracts within the 27260 zip code that are within the core.
So I believe it was the council, right before I got elected in 2017, I see my former colleagues, Jeff Golden, in the room. I believe they identified the core area. The core area wasn't drawn out by accident, it was drawn by the areas that need the most investment. That's why the core area has unrestricted income limits for people that want to get down payment assistance, $7,500 down payment, 5-year forgiveness at 20% a year. We're trying to incentivize investment into that core area. That's the area that needs the most jobs. We're trying to focus on increasing home ownership. So it is an area that the city council directed staff and our investment policies to try to incentivize the growth.
Are there any questions online? That you're giving to the legislative team? So we take that question to the legislative team, first one online. Regarding the One High Point Commission proposal, are you, number one, all in, number two, on the fence, number three, not interested? Councilman Jefferson.
I'm all in on it. I was the one who made the motion for it to get started, and I've been a partner with our NAACP and members of that commission ever since it got going. I was on the committee that helped push it forward, and I've been in so many of those conversations, and even today, Mayor Sims and I were having conversations about how we can ensure that work continues going forward. In fact, I made a proposal to several of my peers on council that if we add it as a strategic priority to our strategic plan, then what it does is it holds your city council accountable, such that every single month is at the top of that agenda, and we have to have an update on it. Otherwise, it sits on the bookshelf. So 100% all in, and very excited about what the results will yield.
Councilman Jones.
I'm committed to the goals. I actually think I was very impressed by the One High Point Commission's goals, what they thought could be done to improve the livelihoods of people in the city. I love the idea of increasing home ownership. That decreases crime, it increases public safety, increases property values, it makes neighborhoods more attractive and safer. I love the concept of increasing home ownership, business ownership. All these ideas are positive, but have positive outcomes citywide for the citizens that need it. And I think the city needs to find creative strategies to help you accomplish those goals. I think we could bring in outside agencies, I can bring in the chamber, we could bring in grant opportunities to help fulfill all of these goals. I'm excited to see how we can develop it over the next few years.
I think we absolutely have to focus on the One High Point Commission blueprint. As mayor, I would really be looking to guide our council to focus on that key element of home ownership. I was intrigued when they came up with a loan law, which is what I've come up with as well, for really increasing home ownership. You can't fix education unless you have kids coming in with pride in their heads and humility in their hearts. If you don't have that, you don't have stability in the classroom. So when you fix the families by creating generational wealth, generational pride, you have kids that will go do well in school, go on, create businesses, be wonderful members of society, and that lifts up the entire system.
Last question from the audience. Or is the city of High Point losing funds? Councilman Jefferson.
The question says, where is it
Or
losing?
is the city of High Point losing money, funds, and why?
I think to kind of figure out where the city is losing money, I don't think right now, if I would look at where our budget is and where our staff devotes those resources, we're doing our best to devote it in every way possible. There are some areas that we need to figure out how we can shore up those funds. I think that there's infrastructure investments and housing investments. But in terms of where funds are being lost, if there's anything being lost, it's in potential revenue. I think that right now our local economy could be more diversified. If it was a diversified economy, then we bring more tax revenue to the city, which will allow us to improve those services and ensure that every resident has what they need.
You can drive down the street and see where we're losing funds. If you see a broken window, we're losing funds. If you see an empty building, we're losing funds. Anytime there's an opportunity to fill that building or that home with the resident or business that's going to generate revenue, we're losing money. That's opportunity cost. That's economics 101. So if we revitalize the city and that expands beyond the core downtown area, it gets into all the areas that need that reinvestment, especially down in Ennis and English and some of those areas, as we see CoHab coming online. All of that is where we're losing money. And when those are not producing property tax values, then the rest of us who are paying property have to share the burden of police, fire, parks, all the city services. So the solution and where we're losing funds, stop the hemorrhage. We've got to get those areas thriving, and I believe I can do that.
I'm guessing the question is, where are we wasting funds as a city? Having sat down with the senior leadership of the city and touched on over the board, I think we've got a great team in-house running the ship in High Point. I don't think there's a lot of wastage going on in this city to a great extent. Yes, there's always going to be a little bit here and there. Where I think we're really missing the opportunity is federal dollars to bring into the city. We could get a federal grant for a loan pool. After World War II, they created a GI Bill for returning veterans. For home loans, education, it created the biggest middle class the world has ever seen. African Americans missed out due to discrimination. That was one of the biggest setbacks for African Americans all across the country, to missed out on that opportunity. And I want to make sure we don't miss out on that opportunity again. We create this loan pool and we rebuild High Point for everybody. Thank you.
We're now in our last round. 2 minutes for your closing remarks. Mr. Kinnaman.
I mentioned earlier my two boys attended LJ. Right? We were burgled a couple of years ago. My youngest son was 9 at the time, was so traumatized by that experience. He didn't go to school for 3 months. I'd drive him to school with his brother each day, and he would get down in the wheel well, wouldn't want to get out because he didn't want to leave his parents after this burglary experience. Every day I'd get out of the car, I'd open the door, and the kids would be coming out of the rally. And if you know anything about LJ, it's 85% African American kids. And they're all coming up to him every single day saying, "Hey, come on, come to class. We've got your back." They'd come in, they'd touch his shoulder, they'd pat him on the head. And they'd try and get him to come to class. And after 3 months, he eventually got out of the car because of those kids. And when I see that these kids are 37% proficient in math and 43% proficient in English, I feel like we need to do something, because these are really, really good kids with so much potential, and they're getting left behind. Thank you.
First, I just want to make sure that we take an opportunity to give honor to the shepherd of this house, Reverend Williams. I'd be remiss if we didn't say thank you. As the humanitarian of the year, we're certainly grateful that we get to all follow the great examples that you've done, as well as other leaders who are here. Major thank you to NAACP as well for putting on this event, and every single volunteer who took their time, as well as a major thank you to every candidate who showed up, because you all are fighting and want to be your best to represent our city. Here's my final words. As you consider who to cast your vote for this fall, you're going to hear all types of campaign promises. The folks are going to make commitments. And what I ask you to do is 2 things. First and foremost, I need you to test the fruit of every tree. Let's ensure that if people say they're going to do something, let's look at how they voted. Let's look at what they support. Let's look at where they've been. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is consider this. What is the motive behind every opponent? What is driving every candidate? Because I'll tell you, as a former educator, who saw many young people fall through the cracks. Many of you all in here know me because of the work we did at Andrews High School, Ben Griffin, and Central, so many other places, working with Red Commander and so many other nonprofits. You know how it is to have your heart bleed for these young people. So when I stepped into the race 4 years ago, I wasn't some polished politician. I was just someone trying to fight the good fight. And now, as a council member who's done effective work in vying for your vote as mayor, my motivation is as a husband and father, I want to build the kind of city that my young boys can grow up in, that they can prosper in, that they won't be judged by the color of their skin, and they won't be discriminated against because the council doesn't think it's worth the money. I want to ensure that within this city, we do what's necessary to make High Point welcome for all.
I spent 19 years serving my country. As soon as I graduated high school, first thing I wanted to do was become. That was probably one of the proudest moments of my life. When I got to wear those dress blues and step on these footprints and become part of this country's history. I served 13 years, and I gladly went overseas and fought in the war as a second vehicle across the Iraqi border and Bridgeport West. And I was okay if I never came home because I knew you guys could be free. I missed that feeling of service, and I think I got a little bit of it back, not quite as much, because being a Marine is pretty awesome. When I ran for Frank Thomas is here, because you know. When I ran for city council, and they were so used to the typical representative that only shows up during campaign season, and you can't get a hold of them, and that's the way it was. You know, they said, I've never been able to get hold of anybody. I can't even call me back, I can't even anybody. I can't believe you showed up to my front doorstep to help me. They've never seen that level of service. I love you to talk to anyone that lives in Ward 5, you know, and ask them if they're happy with Councilman Jones' commitment, love for this country, love for this community, and transparency. I'm excited that come November, things go my way. I believe you're going to get to see me set loose on the entire city. And I'm going to hold my other council members to that same standard. You're going to see more presence, more realness, and more authenticity than you've ever seen in the city council. I think in America, what I see, not that in politics, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but the word that I hear from my friends and people that I know and love and trust is that America, and specifically High Point, is begging for somebody who's truly loves community and is authentic.
You'd like to keep your name? Okay. Totally.
No, don't give it to people.
Yeah. To start, we have Laura. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We're starting at large candidate forum. Mr. Oral Henry, is this one here in here? You're now here. Okay. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin at large candidate forum. We will again start by introducing our candidates. Mr. Sam Carr, Mr. Carr, Ms. Amanda Cook, Ms. Cook, Mr. Willie Davis, Davis, Mr. Kenneth J. Harper Jr., Mr. Harper, Mr. Oriel Henry, Jr., Ms. Sajia Iqbal, Ms. Iqbal, Councilman Britt Moore, Councilman Moore. Thank you so much. I will state the rules again for our at-large candidates. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for opening remarks. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. Please limit your responses to your own ideas and your own campaign. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions from the audience. Each candidate agrees to the public view of the forum by participating in the forum. Each candidate agrees to participate in the candidate forum as stated in our letter of invitation. All candidate remarks will be timed to ensure equal opportunity to speak. There will be 2 timekeepers. One person will keep track of the time using a smartphone. The other will hold up the sign for 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. Timekeepers, please raise your hand and reveal your card. I will rotate the order of questioning so that each candidate has an opportunity to start first. First question. The USDA defines food desert as areas without access to fresh, healthy, and affordable food. High Point is ranked number 14 in the nation for food insecurity. With the closing of Food Line on MLK and Save-A-Lot on Lexington Avenue, Ward 1 has the highest levels of food insecurity. Chronic health conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease result when communities must rely on ready-made meals without nutritional value. If elected, what will your plan be to end disparities in our community caused by food deserts? And how will you advocate and develop policy to retain major change in areas where food insecurity exists? Mr. Carr.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Harrison, for having us. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Dan Carr. I am running for City Council at large, but I'll get right to the questions since we have some time limit. But I understand and I see the different issues that we have around our community when it comes to food disparities and food insecurity within High Point. I serve on the board of Open Door Ministries, homeless shelter, and the food bank as well. And those businesses leaving that area have caused the citizens within that area to go without food, or especially those that may not have transportation to get to a local food mart on the other side of town. And I think it's important that the council works with those businesses to try to bring them back to those areas. I drive by them on MLK, on Lexington Avenue, and they're sitting empty. And I think they can be used to house food marts, whether it's a Food Lion or those foods or anything. And we need to recognize that there are citizens in the community that need that. And I think it's important for the council to partner with those businesses and with those companies to bring that food back.
Ms. Cook?
Any question that brings up people's inability to access any service is going to be more complicated than a simple answer of opening a business, making it available. People's ability to purchase fresh food has to do with more than just the closeness to it, has to do with their financial ability to purchase it. It has to do with their ability to advocate for themselves in their community. And when I was canvassing, I started in Ward 1. It was one of the first things I noticed was there was a lack of fresh food available. And I don't want to speak for the people who live in that community. I don't want to speak to what they hope or desire for, but I know that everyone I've spoken to wants there to be health, wants there to be wealth, wants there to be opportunity. And a lot of times it really just comes down to good customer service and responding to what the people are asking for and being able to help connect them with those services. We just had a conversation in the room while we were waiting about the times that we've called on our elected officials. And that takes a lot of guts to pick up the phone, even if you have all the connections in the world, and ask someone to stop what they're doing and advocate for you. So I think the question that the residents of Ward 1 should be asking is, who's the person that they can pick up the call, get in touch with, and get help when they need it? If it's getting a grocery store or another food source in their community, is it gonna be me? I can tell you I have a good record of customer service. I'm not here to tell you what you need or want. I'm here to tell you how to represent you. Thank you.
Hello, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Willie Davis, I'm the City Council at large. A question about food insecurity is, it's hard. We have been on different boards. We're trying to our community gardens, things like that. And that really doesn't help when you're trying to go to the grocery store at 8 o'clock at night. Community garden is not going to help you if you need a carton of milk. I think that the city council should try to look at bringing grocery store, we should advocate, if we have incentives that we can use that, because hunger is a real problem. It affects our kids with their learning, it affects elderly people with diabetes and other problems. So with that being said, council needs to do a better job of trying to keep businesses and keep local grocery stores and bring them more here, so that we won't have that issue.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Harper. It's true an opportunity to speak to you here tonight. I believe food insecurity is a very serious issue here in High Point. Actually, back in 2016, I worked with Helping Hands Ministry when I produced my play called Crossroads, which addressed domestic violence and it also addressed food insecurity. One of the things we actually did was we had individuals bring canned goods as part of their entry. However, I think it is imperative that we in High Point look at policy that is generally driving businesses out of High Point. When you look at, matter of fact, I'll just name a few that come top to mind. I know you mentioned Save a Lot when we talked about food insecurity. But we need to look at, we've lost Steinmart, we lost Ocala Mall, Pier 1, Barnes & Noble, Golden Corral, Save a Lot, Advanced Auto, Dollar General, Goodwill. So these are vital services that we need in our community. And we need to really work with business leaders, and we also need to work with the city to make sure we cultivate strong relationships in our community, that we do not lose these vital relationships in the community, especially as it relates to food. And so I think it is imperative in the meantime that we work with cooperatives, that we work with nonprofit organizations, that we work with our farmers, that we contact the North Carolina General Assembly and see exactly what types of solutions that we can do in High Point to bring forth food insecurity, food security into High Point, and truly make sure that our children aren't hungry. Because when I look in the audience and I see Mr. and Mrs. Sumner, who was the janitor who served us at Florence Elementary, we didn't go hungry. We had food every single day. And we have an obligation here in High Point to make sure that we don't have children going hungry every single day. And that's what I will do when I sit as your city councilman at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hurston, Dr. Hurston. This question is very dear to me because of how I grew up in the project, and I understood what it meant for food insecurity, to not have much, and to see your parents doing as much as they can to make sure that you have a better life. I've also experienced my same parents who work hard that was able to move to the middle class. So this means a lot to me in that regard. Secondly, it means a lot to me because I see it every day. I am the director of operations for Open Door Ministries. We're a homeless shelter, and we help people to get food. We help people to get hope and healing. Every day, I experience and I see and I speak to those that don't have much. So, as your next elected councilman, what I plan to do is make sure that the resources that council and the mayor has charge of goes towards supporting those agencies like Open Door, like other food pantry places, to get these foods to Ward 1 and different places that we know that needs help. Also, I am also the chair of the Citizens Advisory Council. Every month, we hear from citizens and the need for transportation and for food and all that stuff. And we talk directly with city council. That's what the Citizens Advisory Council does, to give recommendations on what's needed. Lastly, every month, we meet with your local neighborhood leaders to discuss things like this. And one of the things I will tell you is this is a problem that can be fixed, but we need leaders in council that is willing and ready to make that bold move of supporting this. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity, first time. Getting directly to the question, I feel that we need public transportation to get to the stores. I believe that helping with nutritional programs would help. And I also think that if we could encourage the community to create more fresh markets, I think this would help. I am currently working with a nonprofit. On a monthly basis, we go to a food bank and we get food and we distribute it to whomever we see homeless. I take it to a few nursing homes, just people that I know that do not have it. I have people who contact me telling me, my sister will call me and she says, look, this person just lost everything. Can you help? And I just start calling people. And one thing that they need is food. And we depend on the food bank. And that is something that I think fresh markets, food banks, these are things that are very important. And they're great resources, but we just don't have enough.
Councilman Moore?
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Harrison and the NAACP for allowing us to be here, share with you this evening. This is to hear that we are number 14 as showing that while we still have great challenges in that area, we've made some progress. I've been fortunate to serve on council for a number of terms, and I can remember when we were number 1. So that doesn't mean that we stopped there. We have partnerships that we've been working on. We need to improve those. High Point Food Alliance, Carl Beering, Triad Food Pantry, and through our yearly nonprofit allocations. If we look at the line items on a large majority of the money that's issued out each year goes to food and food-related insecurities. So we need to work on safety and crime in the areas to make sure that the areas will be more attractive to businesses, and we need to educate the folks on how they can do some home growing of their own, and possibly help them with the seeds or the things that they need. I actually do that by my own house. I think that we can make improvements as we go forward, but this is a multi-pronged
thing. It deals with the economics, it deals with education, it deals with transportation. But it is an extremely important issue that we will continue, and hopefully at the end of the next term, we will be in better position than we are now.
We recognize city council is limited in its ability to make policy in the education space. But for this audience, what is your definition of equity in education? And what policies would you initiate to ensure quality in education for our most vulnerable population of Black children and children of color? Ms. Smith.
Well, I'm glad to get this question because this is my area of expertise. I was a teacher for 13 years, most recently at Southwest High School. Before that, I taught in Forsyth County for 9 years, and I subbed in a lot of schools here in High Point. And following the food question, one of the issues that I feel that we can advocate for here is making sure that our students are fed nutritious meals so that they can do their best each day. Making sure that all of these wonderful organizations that represent a lot of different interests have access into our schools, know the opportunities that they have to mentor and support. And finally, just to make High Point a great place to live for teachers. I often comment that it's very bizarre to me that I hear the numbers of how much money furniture market puts into our economy and how many millionaires per capita we have here. But when I look at the number of Title I schools in High Point, it doesn't match up with those numbers. And it doesn't make sense to me. So I really need to see children thriving to believe that High Point is thriving. And if children aren't thriving yet, then we have more work to do. And one of the things that happens in Title I schools is a lot of turnover. And that happens because, not because of children, but because of the administration, because of the constraints that everyone has on resources. And we can build that gap. If we have that much abundance, we have to fill that gap. We have to be there. And I'm glad to be here because I know Williams Memorial does more than most in that area of education. Thank you.
Good point to correct. City council is not a different kind of school, but I do believe that as citizens and council, we should scream to the top of the roof when it comes to our kids' education. We should make sure that our kids are getting the best education. I would not be a person possible. Saying it was like, I would love to look at our budget and see if there's anywhere we as council people can put money toward that. I think that when it comes to funding High Point City schools, that sometimes the schools get left behind because of Greensboro has no schools. Funding goes to them. That's not fair to our kids. We need our kids ready for the 21st century. 21st century job. So when they get here, they're ready for them. So I think we should advocate and scream to the top of our lungs to make sure our kids are educated, that our schools are ready, that our teachers are providing the best equipment possible, and safety, and that our schools are as safe as possible. That's it.
Well, first and foremost, I do believe that we need to take the politics out of school. Children are there to get an education. Children need an opportunity to truly go to school and learn how to read. Children need an opportunity to learn about math and science, and they need to learn civics, and they need to learn history. They don't need to learn about sexualization. They don't need to learn about all this race discrimination, things that have to do with adults that don't have anything to do with children. It is time that we simply put our children first, because what has happened is we have sacrificed our children, and we truly sin it every single day. When now our teachers don't have any respect. It doesn't make again, I'm gonna go back. I see Mr. Sumter sitting here. Mr. Sumter was the janitor at my elementary school. You know what he used to do? He used to walk those halls, and he used to make sure that we was in line. He used to make sure that we said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. We respected our teachers. We did what we were supposed to do. And that's what has gotten lost right now in this society. Because people don't want to stand up, they don't want to tell the truth. And that's the only thing that is going to set our children free. The Bible says in Proverbs 21:6, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he gets old, he shall not depart from it. But this nonsense that we're putting in the schools right now is the reason why our children can't learn. The reason why our children can't comprehend. At the end of the day, they need to know that they're special. They need to know that they can do all things through Christ who strengthens them. They need to know that they're winners. They don't need to know about all this section and all this stuff that you see in school. And give parents the right to teach their children. And stop with these politics in the schools, and let's get back to the basics. And that's exactly what we need to do. So when it comes to education, what has happened is people have not related economic development with education. And that's what has happened here. That's what we have. But if you look at economic development is tied to housing and it's also tied to schools. Because if you don't have good schools in your area, the companies that you are trying to get to come here, they're going to look at your school. You're going to look at your public schools, especially. As well as trying to public schools, and they're going to go here. Well, if the public schools are not producing children that are ready and willing to work for our companies, then we're going to go someplace else. So that's first off. Do you know that right now in High Point, 75% of our schools in High Point are at the bottom 50% in schools? Did you know that? Okay? What that is saying is in High Point, what we have come used to is to say, well, High Point don't really need to worry about schools, but we know that's not. Because High Point is very strong and bold. So to have equity, we have to improve our school system here. And I know I'm not going to follow up, but Dr. Kelly Jackson is here. She has been talking about bringing a school here that offers STEM and offers programs that can uplift schools, especially in the 27260 area code. That's the program. And those are things we need to focus on because I'm telling you this, company, I came from Atlanta. I came from Atlanta when public schools was not that good, but we were trying to get the Olympics. And I was there on those boards. Maybe Atlanta what it is today. And one of the things that they focused on was schools, making the schools better. And that's something before I came to High Point. I moved to Detroit in 2010. I moved to High Point in 2014. The very last project I was working on was for junior achievement in downtown. And
I feel that we need to implement policies for the schools that would ensure the best education for our children. Our children, I see so many of our children out there, they do nothing like we did when we were in school. Nothing. Things have changed so much. There's no respect for the teachers, no respect for the parents. And I feel saddened when I see that. And I feel that we need to somehow, I think it starts at home. We need to start at home, teaching our kids the respect and explaining to them at a very young age that when you go to school, you're going there to learn. And another problem that we have is, again, our teachers. We need to have teachers that are top of the pig, top of the line. We don't have that anymore. And I also know that we're short staffed. We need to fill those positions. And because without the teachers, we have overcrowding in the classrooms. How can one teacher focus on 40 kids at once, 30 kids? We need to fix this, and it needs to start in the home.
Hearing the comments and gauging the reaction here, I think that we're all in consensus of the challenge that we have with education. I have the extreme good fortune of being born in High Point in 1963. High Point Andrews was built, first class was 68, graduated in 69. I was the age of 6. So I have grown through, by the time I got there, forced integration, you have to realize, I don't know how y'all are. I kind of didn't know I was alive until I was about 10. But I went to school that seemed totally 50-50 to me. And I talked to so many people that went through those years with me that say, those are the best years of my life. And we were fortunate to have that. And since that time, we moved to Gilbert County, which I advocated heavily against, kind of just for following my parents and my older sister. But we've seen that in a lot of things. When you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you lose local control. We also have seen the advent of so many more choices in education, from homeschooling to online courses to private schools, and that's across the board. It's not just all white people and all black people in here. Everybody's moved in different directions. So we have a role of being an advocate, and it's showing some promise. I'll give you a couple of things. High Point School Partnership has done outstanding work, and we need to continue to support them.
I believe in our kids. Our kids are the ones who are going to walk into our lives and take over the city. And I think it's time that we prepare and we fight for them and for their education and what their school systems look like. Now, we all know, everybody knows in this room, High Point City Council has nothing to do with the school system. That's Guilford County. But I think the person that you elect and the people that you elect to council are your voice to the Guilford County Commissioners and the school board when it comes to what you want to see in High Point schools. And I think it's important that we remember and take into account that High Point can do things. We can continue to fund the High Point Schools Partnership. We can continue to fund these programs that are going into the schools and helping the kids and tutoring the kids and giving them a place to go after school. And kids are our future, and it's time that we look out for them.
Violence, apathy is interpreted as acceptable by the perpetrator, the public, and worse, the victims. Violence is an open attack on tolerance and acceptance, and we need community leaders to speak up. If elected, how will you spearhead the creation of policy-driven initiatives that address the violence in our community? Mr. Davis.
Violence is always a problem. Violence is something that a lot of people or citizens are afraid to even address. I think that one thing we can do is to partner with a lot of community groups, such as the High Point Peacemakers, High Point Prayer, High Point Tech. If you see them, if you see something, you report it. You know, you just do what you can. I mean, we're not crime fighters. As far as policies, I want everyone treated equally and fairly. I don't think the police will have to get anyone or anything like that. So don't be afraid to talk to the police. Don't be afraid to tell us, report something. But we got to try to curb violence. When you look at violence, you look at economics. If you have a city full of crime and violence, no one's going to want to bring business here. No one's going to want to start a business here if you got a high crime. So I think we should do everything we can to fix the problem, to report the problem, and just be great citizens, you know. We can't. So we're not current fighters, but we can do what is necessary as citizens. And it's countable.
Thank you. When it comes to violence, first of all, we got to start with the foundation. The foundation is the home. We need parents to teach their children and train their children how to live in a productive and successful society. Because truly, if children don't have an opportunity to have a mother that's loving and a father that can nurture them and train them and teach them the way, then generally speaking, yes, we're going to continue to see violence in our youth and in our young people. And truly, one of the things that I've done in my career in High Point, I work with Greg Commander in the prisons, actually working with prisoners, teaching them about financial literacy, actually working with Goodwill Ministries, working with prisoners, teaching them about budgeting and a plan, because many of them didn't have parents that stood in the gap for them. And we as a community got to begin to come together because we have had a societal breakdown. Our children don't even know how to dress. They don't know that they need to wear a belt. They think they can walk outside and wear pajamas and wear all types of things on their head and think that somebody's going to hire them for a job. How do we get to this point in the society? We are responsible. So at the end of the day, we truly have to come together as a community and begin to teach our children about how to one live and get a trade and get a skill. Because actually, when you have a skill and when you're out working and you have something to look forward to, you're not going to want to be in violence. Because violence is going to take away your opportunity. Violence takes away your opportunity for you to go to college, for you to have a career, for you to be anybody that you want to be. Our children don't have any hope in the inside of them. They need somebody to put something on the inside of them and tell them that they're special and that they have a bright future ahead of them. Because if we don't do that, then the violence is going to continue and our communities are going to get worse. When I grew up in High Point, North Carolina, in 1981 all the way to the 90s, we didn't have double homicide murders in this city.
I'm going to work on 2 minutes. Just want to let you all know I'm a former Gifford County school teacher. Okay, so I know what it means to have better schools, and this goes directly to this question. I'm also on the High Point sponsorship of school as well on that committee. So we do a lot for schools in that regard. I'm also right now currently an adjunct professor at High Point University, teaching the school of business, teaching operations. So I'm saying that to say that when it comes to violence, where it comes from is we have to look at our schools, making sure we have better public schools and facilities, because that's the issue. And again, as a former teacher, that was the issue that we had, is a lot of technology in these schools were not up to date. And so and also a lot of them was damaged. So of course, the kids would treat them as kids. So that's one of the things we have to correct those schools to help with violence. The next thing is, again, working at Open Door. We need to have better facilities so that those that come in, we can offer them a chance to find good work. And also when they find good work, to find good homes. Because that's the other thing too. In our neighborhood, we need better homes, right? Right now we have a lack of homes. You have better homes, you have better communities, and so therefore your violence is going to go down. Lastly, of course, as we all know, we need more police. We are short on police. So that's something, as a council person, what I will be doing is looking at ways we can get more police to make sure that our communities are safe. And lastly, our neighborhood groups, we're gonna rally with them and make sure that we support them as council. Okay? That's what we need to do. Thank you.
Violence is something that I've seen within my family and friends. I had 2 days after my oldest daughter got married, my neighbor 3 houses down was shot and killed on his front porch in High Point. A few years later, one of my best friends was shot and killed in front of his 2 young children and his wife and his niece. So this hits home for me. For me, violence in High Point is not acceptable. And that's only 2 examples that I've shared with you. There's still more. For me, I think that we need more funding for the police. I think we need to somehow figure out a way to get cameras installed so that they're running on some type of 24-hour basis throughout the city in places where we know that this is where violence is happening. This is only a couple of things that I feel that would help, but I can promise you, if I get elected to council, I will try my very best to do something about violence.
Thank you. I do want you to know that, many of these issues, I hope you notice or look at the agenda, notice that none of them stand alone. And the situation with the violence, all the candidates have made great points. I want to say this, y'all help me out. Idle hands do the devil. And we have to give the kids and let them know that there's more things to do, that they don't, there's an attention span gap or something here where they feel like they're bored or they idolize or see this type of thing. High Point's Citizens Against Violence is a board that I'm a liaison to, and I've had the privilege of working with for about 6 years. And it's a very diverse group of people in age and color that come together once a month or anytime that there is and we canvass neighborhoods. We have on this council done extraordinary measures we get new cameras, we're putting in new technologies, we're spending millions of dollars from that end. But we need to realize also that money doesn't solve all problems. And we do have Greg Commander just walked in, we've got other great groups that we need to unify and reach out to these kids and give them other options, whether it be sports, whether it be arts, whether it be music, whatever. We have to show them a different direction, and we have to do it early on in their life.
Just like Councilman Moore said, all of these things are intertwined and they go hand in hand with each other. And I think it's important that we stop or we help this at the root cause, and that is showing our kids and our at-risk youth that there are other opportunities, not only in High Point, but there's opportunities after high school. There's opportunities even after college. College is not for everybody. College is not for every student. And it's important that we put programs in place that allow them to see those options that are out there. It's also important that we support our first responders and our police. The city of High Point is very honored to have a great relationship with the High Point Police. And it's important that while our numbers are down in police officers, that we provide the funding that they need to keep our city safe. They're the ones who are on the front lines every single day. They're the ones who at the end of the day are going to keep us safe. And ensuring that they are compensated just like our surrounding cities, so that way they don't leave our city to go to a different city to work. They're provided their best equipment that they can have. And ensuring that our nonprofits and partnering with our nonprofits have all the tools and the necessary things that council can provide them to be successful in curbing violence in our community. Thank you.
Well, the question has to do with creating policy that's going to help reduce or eliminate violence. We're not going to policy our way out of violence. Violence happens because people don't see opportunity and they don't have hope, and perhaps they're better rewarded by participating in it than avoiding it. And a lot has been said about what's going on in our schools. And I feel pretty confident saying that I'm the only person that was in a school today. Literally. I'm in schools all the time. Kids are good. The adults are limiting kids' ability to see opportunity and chances that are all around them. They may not be in High Point right now. Hopefully, we're gonna work to build more opportunities and more chances here in High Point. But I can tell you, with the amount of testing that we do, if you don't start succeeding on day one of kindergarten, you are in tutoring, you are pulled out, you miss the arts, you miss PE. Some places, unfortunately, even though it's illegal, you miss recess. Kids are taught to hate school very early. And parents can't parent their way out of a kid who hates school. There's no school that's gonna repair that damage once it's done. So if you want to talk about how to improve opportunity, improve education, reduce violence, we have to support our teachers. We have to reduce the amount of testing. And just like Willie said, we have to shout at the top of our lungs to get testing out of our school, to put our kids to work doing things that they like to do, that provide them opportunities in the future, a future we can't even see right now.
Next question. Blight is an economic crime against humanity. It causes municipalities to lose considerable property tax revenue as a result of lower assessed property value. What action will you take to remedy this issue so that all High Point remains as pristine as the campus of High Point University and other very well-kept areas of High Point? Mr. Harper.
Thanks for the question. I think it's a very important question because as you drive through High Point, we have a lot of buildings that are vacant because obviously over 40 years ago, a large portion of jobs were sent over to China. And there are a couple components that I think even on a platform that I mentioned as relates to the American Rescue Plan, which are pass-through funds that can be utilized to turn some of these vacant buildings into buildings that have opportunity for High Point, whether that's develop mixed use of commercial use of apartments or lofts or mixed use commercial businesses, because we do need more commercial enterprises here in High Point. I would like to stop going over to Greensboro and Winston-Salem so much to shop. So there are opportunities there. Also too, with the opportunity zones legislation. That's an opportunity for us to bring investors here that would like to take advantage of tax deferred growth, but also in the community that needs the areas to produce jobs, to create opportunities for business. We can utilize those tax incentives to, number one, grow our community here in High Point, and take some of these distressed areas that in turn now people have jobs in those locations, people can live in those locations, and they become viable again back to the city of High Point. So I believe that it's imperative that we work with real estate developers, work with business community, and recruit niche markets here in High Point to really revitalize and continue the direction of growth that the current council, and I will give them credit, I believe the current council is headed in the right direction, and we do need to stay on that trajectory. But I think that those will be some opportunities that we could take advantage of. Thank you.
Mr. Henry.
Thank you. Blight is something that we need to look at, and I know right now currently we're working on making things better in that regard. What I like was the reference to High Point University, because High Point University is the blueprint I feel that we should use to know that when it comes to making things better and bringing people in, they will look at the area and look at what's around them and decide. Okay. One of the things Dr. Cobain is great at is he is great at projecting and letting people know to come to High Point to that school. And I know as an adjunct professor, I have a lot of students that come because when they come to the campus, they are blown away. That being said, in High Point, we do have a lot of places where we have abandoned buildings, and those need to be fixed up. We have the Rocker Stadium, and right now we're gonna have the soccer team coming. What that says is this: those areas surrounding there and other areas, we need to make sure that we fix these places up and get rid of blight. Why? Because that's still part of economic development. And so, as the next council, I will make sure that that is something that happens, especially in the 27260 area code. Remember, we're one High Point. When people are out there, not from here, they don't know about 27260. They don't know about 27265. All they hear is, oh, High Point have a lot of lights. So what we have to do is make sure those places that needs help, those places that needs to be fixed up, let's fix those places up. So when people come here, they not only have a place to go, but we, as citizens, we feel good about living here.
Is it all?
Addressing blight is a long-term effort. We could use abandoned buildings, for housing, for the homeless. Codes need to be enforced. We could offer grants, for low-interest loans to homeowners, first-time buyers. I believe this is just a start to the blight efforts.
We have done a good job. As she just said, it is, you're chasing it all the time. I see former Councilman Jeff Bowman in the audience, and he was part of council when we formed, our Black Strategy Commission. And Lori Loosemore and them had a list that they could work 8 days a week. If you come to a council meeting, every meeting, we give you the statistics, and they're in the hundreds. But we give the rundown. There are laws. You can't just go out there and see the houses dilapidated and knock it down. Some things take 2 to 4 years to get. But every week, Lori is bringing back where we have fixed up houses and made them livable. There are programs in place. We just need to make sure people know about them for first-time home buyer incentives and loans and things of that nature. We're doing a good job, but we will always have to continue to do a good job. And hopefully the other parts, pieces of the economy, the broader development for all levels of town, for good paying jobs, and we will continue to see improvement there. But this council and this city for many years now has made that a priority, and we are getting better at it all the time. We could use more staff, and we can always use more money for every department, everything we discuss. But we're headed in a good direction with that, and I think we can find some more partnerships and maybe speed the process up as we go.
Yeah, current council is doing a phenomenal job. I think it's important that we continue their efforts and do what we can. Those of us that are elected to just continue on that trajectory, continue on that path forward. But I think also as a graduate of High Point University, one of the first things that Dr. Humane said to all of the freshmen was, it's your responsibility to help keep this campus clean. And that can start with a simple piece of trash that you might notice on the sidewalk, with your room, with the facilities that we have. And I think it's important that we recognize this as a partnership with the community and with the city. And if you notice a part of your neighborhood that's not looking the best, or a house, or anything, that you do your part and report it to council as well. But I think as long as we continue this trajectory, provide the adequate funding, stay on top of it, be proactive, and have inspectors out in the community looking for this, then I think that we'll continue to make the necessary strides forward when it comes to.
One of the first things that people say to you when you start a nonprofit is, oh, I heard this story about this person who got this building for $1 because it's a nonprofit. And people love to tell you those stories. And I've had a nonprofit here in High Point since 2021. I haven't found this dollar building. I'd love for that story to happen here in High Point because ask all the time how to start a nonprofit. And the first thing people told me when I started asking questions was, do you have to start a nonprofit? Can you just work for somebody else? Can you just use their nonprofit? Because it's hard. But I got through the process, got turned around. I helped several people go through the process themselves. But it's still extremely difficult to find a physical location to do the types of things I would. And I would share space. I would open space up for all kinds of groups. And my point in saying all of this is that we could do more. There are empty buildings sitting here. There are nonprofits sitting in the city that would love a physical space. And there's work happening right now through Thrive Pipeline to put entrepreneurs into space. And I would love to be a part of that movement as well. I would love to have the dollar building. I drive by that building on the corner of Lexington and Deep River, that old Presbyterian home. And I just think, what if that was a thriving opportunity for teachers to come together and work together and learn together and have access to rich resources? I dream of putting my work into that building and growing it and making High Point a destination for teachers. And it has been very difficult to find the connection and the resources to make that happen. And I would love to see High Point become a leader in opening up those spaces and putting inspiring things there. Things that will make people feel very hopeful about the future. So yes, I think there's more that we can do, and I'd love to see this building.
When it comes to addressing blight, I agree with everyone out here. Number one, I think our code enforcement has done a great job with trying to tackle it. Of course, there's always more that we can do. One of the things I would love to see done is, but then on committees like the CAC, we talk to other cities and other places, see how they attack, see what they did, right? You take like the Presbyterian shoes, maybe I would love to see turn into use something maybe for apartments like Thomasville. One of the old buildings, Tier 5, they turned it into a park. They use the Cinder program, they brought investors in, and they turned those into apartments for people that have affordable living. And you can turn it into places like that, into housing for people up to senior citizens over 50 or 55, you know, that want to be together, you know, things like that, which I think would be a great idea. Of course, you need to take care of life because you got a lot of abandoned buildings and houses. It's going to breed crime. It's going to be a place for people to. So we don't want that in our city. We want to eliminate that. With that being said, again, I think code enforcement is doing a great job. And another thing that they're doing a great job with light and things is abandoned cars. You know, we're trying to keep the house, we're trying to keep the tax value up. And we got maybe people with 8 abandoned cars, 3, 4 down the street, 4 in the front yard. That's gonna make the property great. That's not good for you as a citizen. So I think they're doing a great job with that. So I do appreciate the job. Totally.
Question, if you will go ahead and start preparing the questions from the audience. Guilford County Schools have a bus driver shortage. The shortage is directly affecting class time for our poorest students. Arriving at school 10 minutes late over 180 days equates to a significant reduction in overall learning and instruction time. If elected, what would you propose to our city manager and or transit to remedy the dilemma for our Guilford County schools?
Thank you for the question. I can speak directly to this as a former Guilford County school teacher for middle school. We had this issue a couple years ago when I was teaching, where a lot of my students that were in 7th and 8th grade were coming late to class, and it was not the fault of their own, it was due to shortage. One of the things we need to do is make sure that we have the right monies in place that we can pay for staff. Not only faculty, but staff, bus drivers, even custodial workers. Those are things that are short in our school system. The question is why? And I'll go back to the very first part that I said, economic development. If you feel that economic development is not part of schools, then you're not going to do much to rally around getting our schools better. So as council, that's what we can do. We can rally around for Guilford County to know, hey, in High Point, we care about schools. Because we care about our kids learning, and our kids getting good jobs, because when they have good jobs, they're good citizens. And therefore they can be able to raise and show the next generation. In order to do that with the schools, we also as well need to make sure that we have better neighborhoods too. Because again, it directly affects them. How we get better neighborhoods, we gotta pay better. I will tell you this, a lot of our teachers, especially a lot of our bus drivers and stuff, they are going outside the county to get jobs. We know, we see it, Forsyth County, Virginia, okay? So as a council person, I will tell you this, I will make sure I let the commissioners know that in High Point, we are serious about our kids. We are serious about getting there on time. And we are serious about making sure their education is top.
I agree with the funding. I believe we need more funding, more budgeting for the schools, for the children's education, for the teachers. For everyone who works in the school system, I believe we need more funding and we need a better budget. And I think this is a job that we're gonna have to pay very close attention to, with a lot of consideration as being part of the council.
I think we've all understood, made it clear, that we relinquished our control to Guilford County years ago. So we've reduced ourselves to advocacy, bro. I didn't say that right, third. But we do have relationships with the commissioners. I think it would be interesting. I heard that or read just the other day that there are certain kids that are staying on the school bus between 2 and 3 hours a day. That can lead me to believe we need to check a study to see, and these are ones that have drivers, of how far we are actually sending kids to different schools, maybe chasing some type of social number system to make it look right. If we strengthen all of our schools and see if we can become more of the community schools that I think that could go a long way to giving us some answers. Don't know that that's been done. I'm glad you brought up the subject, and I think that would be a place that I would start to see if we could get that study. We also need, I want y'all to realize one thing. Anytime in the public or the county, when you're talking about public sector jobs, we are competing with the private sector. And it flips back and forth. So if a driver is qualified and got the credentials, and they can go to Amazon and make 2 or 3 times the money, it's a battle. It's always a fight and something you're pushing for. But I would start to see if there's a way to bring back more of a local community school environment.
Yeah, I think, just as we've all said, the Guilford County schools, but I think it goes back to the point of who do you want person on council or those council members to be advocating for your kids, for your grandkids. And I think that we should all be a little bit upset that our kids are missing valuable time in school. All of our taxes go to pay somewhat of Guilford County schools. And that's not money well spent, and it's not efficient. And I think there's some programs that we can try to implement, and maybe that is advocating to council for staff members to be incentivized to get a CDL and to drive. They're already going to be at school, whether they're a coach, whether they're a part-time worker, or even a teacher. And maybe we can advocate for those teachers and other staff members to be able to get a CDL, so that way they want to run the bus. And maybe it's partnering with our local transit authorities as well and working with them, those that are on shifts, and incentivizing them to come and drive the school bus in the morning. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, I was gonna try to say, as the only one up here that has a CDL, but I know it's not really. So I can't say that, but I did have my CDL because as a Forsyth County coach, I had to get my CDL to drive my teams, which meant that on some days I was up at practice at 5 o'clock in the morning, then took the kids to school, and then taught a full day, and then drove the kids to Ashburn or Trinity for a swim meet that would go until 9:30, 10 o'clock, drive back 30, 45 minutes, get up, do it again the next day. Asking current staff to do this is one of the things that's driven bus drivers away, is they're forcing people to become TAs. You can't be a bus driver unless you're willing to be a TA. You can't be a TA unless you're willing to be a bus driver or bus assistant. So I'd like to think a little more creatively about this. Not that I'm advocating for high schoolers to be driving our current buses, but I do know from my time teaching high school that a lot of seniors don't have a full schedule, and not all of them work. And I know that one thing that prevents people from getting a CDL is making mistakes early on in life, and then they're prevented from getting that CDL at any point once they have certain marks in the record. So I'd like to close the gap there and say, why don't we start to provide CDL training and ask them to drive for a year or two, and then take that CDL on once they graduate from college or are ready to take on the world, into those better opportunities with Amazon or with another private company. I don't think we have to be against the private industry. I think that we can actually work with the private industry to identify people who aren't looking at college immediately after high school, or aren't looking for a part-time job that they can do and go to school during the day. I think there are other creative answers, and I definitely think that I see a lot of kids who that is a compelling opportunity.
Let's drop shortage. It's definitely a problem. Now, like Ms. Cook was saying, a lot of us, we went to school, we go to our school buses. But you can't do that now because of the CDL, because of our state laws. That I think you have to be 21 to get a CDL. So that's one problem. Of course, pay is another problem. We say just give them more pay, but with more pay comes the taxes. So you got to think about it also what we will pay the taxes. But I do think that the different county school board, we can do things like what other companies do. You give a bonus. If you get 8 kids to school every day for 60 days, on home and on time, you get a bonus. You get another $2 or $3 million on your check. Make people want to work. Finding people to work is hard sometimes. It's hard to believe, but it really is. And then you pass the CDL, it's even hard. Personally, I know I've given it a test many times. So, to find the perfect answer is going to be very difficult. You got to find people who want to work. You got to find people that can advance it. You got to find people that's old enough, and you got to find some type of incentive to want to keep them there. That's the biggest issue right there, is pay and knowing being able to compete with other sectors.
In respect of time, I'll just give you a simple answer. Actually, the city manager, they sent us a job description that pertains to city council, and we really are supposed to engage with our citizens. We make decisions as pertains to our city services, our police, our fire. The school board, actually Gifford County School Board, this question should be brought to them. It is their responsibility. They have the budget, and also the parents need to go and speak to Gifford County Schools, because at the end of the day, we at the city council really don't have the necessary resources to address the things that Gifford County Schools is not doing. So I would just focus on exactly the job description, which is taking care of citizens and quality life services here in Highland.
Thank you. We have two questions for the audience. There will be 1 minute to answer these two questions. How do you plan to work effectively with the person who is elected mayor, even though you do not agree with them? Ms. Iqbal.
That question has been to me back. I don't really have a good answer. But I can say that, have a good team effort. Even though if it was someone that I didn't agree with, I would still have to go in with an open mind and consider all the options. I wouldn't just go in and say, okay, I don't agree with this person, so I'm not gonna listen to what they have to say.
Councilman Moore.
I guess you could say if I'm elected again, I got an unfair advantage on this one. I've got to meet Gene, through his work at High Point, Rowing, so I know a little bit about his personality and, what he's doing. And then, if it, becomes Victor or Cyril, we've had 4 years to work together. And I think, we have done a really good job. I think, we respect each other. We don't always agree with each other, but our objective is to find the positive and to get to the yes of the issues that are in front of us, and to do it for the entire city, the short-term returns and the long-term dividends.
Mr. Carr.
I think every mayoral candidate has what's best for them. They might go about it differently, they might do it differently. At the end of the day, they want what's best for them. And I think whoever you elect, whether they agree or disagree, personally, professionally, whatever, it's all about taking those differences, putting them aside, and doing what's best for them. And at the end of the day, looking to elect someone or several people who would do what's best for them. And all of the mayoral candidates, I think, would be great.
I've been told my face doesn't hide how I feel on the inside. I know that I can very much wear my heart on my sleeve, but I think most people who know me, especially people who have worked with me, will know that I also operate with the hypothesis of generosity. I truly do believe that people are doing the best that they can, and it may not be how I would do it, and it may not be the words that I would use. I try to choose my words carefully. I try to be as responsive and accepting of all points of view. I generally try to anticipate what somebody's going to say or do so that I can be prepared. And so I feel very confident that I would be able to work with someone that I don't disagree with, but I hope that ultimately we would come to the best decision for High Point.
Mr. Davis.
Being on a couple different boards, I've learned to work with people and maybe not always agree. One of the best things I think you do is educate yourself to whatever you're talking about. Make sure that you have the most information as best you can. And hopefully that you're going to convince them to see the issue the way you present it to them. That's why you have accountability. That's why you have 9 other people on there. It's 9 other people on there. So it's not just one person's opinion. You got to get other people to see things and vote your way. So if they don't, then you respectfully move on and try to hopefully bring it back another time and try to get it brought back up, and then we do it again. But getting angry and just walking away is no way. Thank you.
Well, I think civility and diplomacy are the core components of truly working together cohesively within the city. And truly, if you do your due diligence and your homework and you really look at the issues and you count the costs, I think at the end of the day, you truly can do what's in the best interest of citizens. And that's ultimately what we're here to do. We're here to serve our constituents. We're here to listen to their concerns. And we're also here to use empathy and common sense. I think if we put those fundamentals together, and truly, even if we don't disagree, we can come to some type of amicable agreement and truly do what's in the best interest for the citizens of Highland. Thank you.
I was born in a big family. I am the baby of 12 children. My oldest brother or sibling is 20 years older than I am. The youngest is 5 years older than me. Okay, I'm 53 years old now, so I have worked with a lot of people and have to deal with a lot of people in my family. So that being said, I have been privileged being on the Citizens Advisory Council to have worked with Cyril as well as Victor for the last 3 years. I've recently met Gene, and I know that he also is a good person to work with. So to that point, I believe it will be a great relationship because we have High Point is what we want to make better. I believe all three does, and I look forward to working with either one.
Thank you. Folks from the audience. I have been unemployed for 2 years. Programs like open house ministries, food utility, and rent assistance programs have been a great asset for all of my family's needs. What will you implement to keep these types of programs available, Councilman Moore?
Well, that's good to hear. Not that you've been employed, but you've been able to find the assistance you need while you're trying to get back on your feet, become independent again. Council is constantly working with staff. We're currently set aside millions of dollars to create I don't want to stop, there's too many tentacles, but a more comprehensive campus at the old Redwood Elementary School. And those plans are underway. So we'll continue to provide the services that you are getting now. And we look forward to the day where that is going to be a combination of getting food assistance, getting educational assistance, getting health assistance, getting home assistance. It's going to be a large facility with a comprehensive plan to try to address the type of issues that you're facing now.
Mr. Carr.
As a board member of Open Door Ministries, it brings me a lot of joy to hear whoever that was that answered or asked that question. But as Brent said, there's a day center that Open Door Ministries is working very hard on and partnering with the county, with the state, and with the city. And the city has graciously provided Open Door Ministries a lot of funds to be able to support that day center. That day center will also bring a lot of jobs, job training, and expand the homeless shelter, as well as provide a lot of other programs. But I think it's also important that we continue to support our other programs in the state. West End Ministries, the veterans cause that the Hero Center is pushing forth. It's supporting our veterans that are either coming back quickly, already here, or have been here for a long time and supporting them. So I think that we look at all of our nonprofits and we continue to support them the best way that the city can. Thank you.
Well, it takes a lot of courage to reach out when you need help. I'm very glad to hear that support has been available. I would never go to eliminate support for the most vulnerable people in our city. I would love to know what gaps still exist from people who have reached out and perhaps have not gotten the services that they need, or there's not a service available for the need that they have. I would hope that we would provide opportunities to reduce the number of people who need those services. I know that as long as anyone needs it, I would definitely support that. I do a lot of work in this community as well as Salem, and it's not always easy to ask for what you need, and especially when you have a family that depends on you. So I want to make sure that there's no shame or trauma involved with people reaching out and asking for what they need.
I think as a council person, First of all, like I said, I think it's something right. I think as a council person, you need to educate yourself on different organizations such as Open Door Ministries and other organizations, so you can guide people toward that to place it. I took an initiative class one time so I can learn. What would this person do? What would I do if I wanted to work for? And it would have to be 3 kids. So, and there was programs that I didn't even know about. So I think as a council person, you need to educate yourself and make sure that you know. So when a citizen comes to you, of course, you may not be able to help them personally, but you can direct them in the right way to get funding and to get help. And I also think we should we should continue to support all nonprofits that are trying to help our citizens.
I know exactly how it feels to struggle. I know what it is to have more money than you have money. I know what it is to rob Peter to pay Paul. And I know what it feels like right here in the city. I know what it is to go to Goodwill and ask them if you can help me pay my light bill, and then have to turn around and see if you can find a shelter or that can provide food or things of that nature, because you basically are not able to have the means or the things that you need to survive. So one, I would love to see those resources continue as pertains to the answers that many of my constituents here have provided. But also, I like to see a business incubator that actually can help that person get back to work, that gives them the training, the skills, connect them in the community with the resources that they need to get back to work, so they're able to provide for themselves and for their families. And so I think that is the ultimate thing. Let's help that individual get back to work here in High.
I can speak to that person that asked the question, because again, as Director of Operations for Open Door Ministries, that's what I see every day. I will tell you this, yes, we are working on a day center, but we're a couple of ways out. And the day center will offer services for stuff that we take for granted, like getting your clothes washed, getting a shave, getting a shower. That's the day center, and money has already been earmarked for that. However, we have an issue now. The problem is we need to support places like Open Door Ministries that offer these services today. And our Open Door Ministries, that's the issue that we have. We have a need for folks that need food. We have a need of folks that need rental assistance, and we provide it. But we're limiting what we can do because we have to get monies in from people to donate and from corporations. And so I urge you, as you have heard the need that we're fulfilling right now, to get with those folks to make sure.
I appreciate all the work that Open Doors Ministries has done. Great organization. I feel we need more of these type of facilities. I believe we need a place where we can open doors for not only the homeless, the jobless, but we need a place where we can teach these people work skills, new skill sets. And this is a very important thing. If a person, they're laid off from a job, or they're fired, or for whatever reason, they may not find a job in that same field. We need somewhere where we can teach them new job skills. So,
Yes. Okay, all right. What we're going to do now is, if you would, did you get a chance to?
I started.
Because I'm getting a little, okay. I'm going to have you all go ahead and do the closing remarks, but just take 1 minute to do your closing remarks. Mr. Carter.
I want to thank you all again for having me. Thank you to the NAACP for hosting this. But I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you listening. I want to address the elephant in the room. I am really young, but it's time for the next generation to step forward. And the place where we are going to be living in High Point is the place that my generation will have it. They inhabit it now, but they will be the ones who will raise their families here. And I want to have a seat at the table and making decisions. not just for myself, not just for my family, not for my friends, but for all of High Point, all of the city of High Point. So again, I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me. Have a good one.
I'm gonna address the elephant in the room as well. I'm white. And I'm also the secretary of the High Point NAACP, which I have held onto and haven't mentioned in every answer because I really do appreciate the crowd that's here tonight. I've been in a lot of forums where it's just the partner, spouses, you know, one or two friends of the candidates, and the community doesn't show up. I knew when we had you here that that was not going to be the case, and I feel very grateful for you spending your time out here. I know that the people in this room already are educated. You've already looked at websites and Facebook and talked, and you've been to city council. A lot of you were there last night for a very exciting night. So I'm not here to educate you about the issues or to tell you anything about how you should feel or to tell you how to vote. I will just tell you that if you already know me, which hopefully many of you do, you can count on me to continue to be the person you know me to be and to represent you.
I would just like to say, I've been serving High Point in different ways for a while now. I didn't just start yesterday, last week. I've been on different boards and committees, like the CAC, Human Relations Committee, things like that. So I've been finding ways to try to, I will continue to try to find ways to serve. My vision for High Point is for High Point to be the city that has best opportunity for kids. I don't want our adults to leave High Point for better jobs. I want our better jobs to be here in High Point. I don't want our kids to have to leave because they feel there's better opportunities somewhere. Because I want the best opportunity to be in High Point. I think High Point is a great city, is a good city. It can only be better with the right council people in place.
Well, first of all, I'm a business owner. I grew up right here. My company is called Park. It stands for Helping African Americans Resolve Problems and Create Opportunity. In the last 18 years in the financial service industry, I put over $40 million of life insurance strategically in the African American community. I've served on the heads up for our youth board in Greensboro. I worked with the Street Leach Jackson Foundation, Good Wheels Ministry, worked on the ATL project, the Red Community Teaching Financial Literacy in the prisons. Served on Rainbow Push Coalition. I ran for the U.S. Senate last year. In 2022 primary, I built relationships all across the state of North Carolina. No candidate sitting at this table has those relationships. Those relationships are going to be vital for High Point, for the production, the economic development and growth of High Point, for the future growth of High Point. We need leaders who truly understand the strategic times that we're living in. We need spiritual leaders right now. We need people that are truly going to do what's in the best interest of every single constituent, whether you agree with them or not. And I look forward to doing that. I'm not new to this, but I'm true to this. Ken Harper, also October 10, vote for Ken. Thank you.
North Carolina is number one to do business according to CNBC. This is the second year in a row. I serve on the North Carolina Economic Development Association board. I am also on the economic development for legislative committee for that as well. I'm saying this to say this. When it comes to wanting to make sure our schools are better, not only do I work in Guilford County School, but I'm associated with the school. If you want to make sure you have better housing and more affordable housing, I work as well with the High Point Realtors Association. My wife is a broker, and we have a local commercial brokerage firm here in High Point. And lastly, if you want to talk and fix homelessness, I work for Open Door Ministry. So those three things, I need your support and your help.
A lot of you don't know, I was born and raised in Trinity, graduated from Trinity, relocated to New Jersey, was there for 13 years. My husband and I moved back to High Point. I've been in High Point for 24 years. I love the city of High Point. I have been helping people since probably the day after I got married. I've been married 38 years. And I help a lot of the community in High Point on the south side with issues as far as if It could be something in the city, it could be something as simple as a passport. And this is the way I spend my time helping my community. I have people who are asking me right now to go to the city and ask them on their behalf how they can get their help. And this is just something I've been doing for the last 38 years. And I'm going to continue to do it even if I do not get on the council.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I just noticed, I'm looking down the table, Sam started off, I think we were supposed to be alphabetical order, maybe we are, but, Sam said the elephant in the room was he was a young man, so I guess the other, not an old man. But it's been a pleasure to serve the city I love, my home. I've had opportunities through my life to live in other places if I had chose to. There's nowhere else I want to be. The privilege of being on council and being able to serve and to listen and to try to be a positive change. And I think some of it that we've discussed tonight, it really is. We always have challenges. The biggest room in any home, in any situation, is always the room for improvement. That's why we get up every day. I feel like my experience is very important. So many of the projects we have going on that are in early stream or in midstream. COVID threw us for a loop. It's something I know it's identical.
Move towards.
I wish to serve you again.
We are going to let our large candidates exit and we're going to have 3 questions. So you just sit tight and know this is so very important. And we are so thankful that each and every one of you are still here because this is so important for high point to know and understand the positions of the candidates as they begin to move through the electoral process. So if you'll just sit tight for just 60 seconds, we'll have them on stage and ready to go. Yes. For your next one. Okay, One in Bianca. Bianca, you'll bring the Ward 1 in. Bianca, if you will have Ward 1 coming in, please. If you will take your seat here in the center. Is Mr. Davis there? Thank you. Mr. Davis, you're here. Thank you. And now we are in our third and final part of the forum, which is our Ward 1 candidate for the High Point City Council. Mr. Glenn Chavis, Mr. Chavis, Ms. Vicki McKeever, Mr. Henry Harris, Mr. Harris. I will list the rules for you. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for opening remarks. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. Limit your responses to your own ideas and your own campaign. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions from the audience. Each candidate agrees to public review of the form by participating in the form, and each candidate agrees to participate in the candidate form as stated in the letter of invitation. All remarks will be timed to ensure equal opportunity to speak. There will be 2 timekeepers. Timekeepers, please raise your hand and raise your time cards, please. One person will keep track of the time using a smartphone, the other will hold up the sign for 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. I'll rotate these questions so that each of you will have an opportunity to start. The first question. If elected for Ward 1, what are your top 3 priorities to improve the lives of your constituents in Ward 1, and how would you advocate for the solutions to achieve these priorities? Mr. Chair.
Well, based on my reading recently, based on my visiting my Ward 1 that I live in now, my thinking has changed. All right, what I liked a month ago has changed. I saw poverty that I've never experienced before. Unbelievable. And how we are ranked in the whole nation. It's unbelievable that this has gone on this long in the city of High Point, North Carolina. Let me assist that. The 7th percentile for safety, meaning that we are 93% more dangerous than any place else in the nation. 93%. That's outrageous. In 27260, the 5th poorest zip code in the state of North Carolina. It should not be like that. And we worried about a ballpark hitting baseball. It doesn't make sense. Got 30 seconds. No, this is where you rank in terms of violent crime. Violent crime, if. Poverty crime grade, D-. Other crime grade, D-. Folks, we don't need to be talking about anything else other than revitalizing Ward 1. That should be the top priority of anything else in the city of High Point.
Move towards the Mr. Keeper.
Okay, my 3 top things for running for Ward 1 is the food there. There are places in Ward 1 and also around High Point that low-income families don't have opportunity to go to get food. I remember they had $1 down the street down here from us, and they changing them to Food Line, and then at the while they closed Food Line down. So we got people that live down here in a lot of the apartments, and they have a hard time to get to grocery store to get some food, and also our homes, several outlets closed down, and people in that area have a problem. And so I feel like we need to try to come together and work together and get the community, try to find a way that we can get some communities together and help us find out a solution to try to get these stores back in the areas. Also transportation, our transportation system here in High Point, it closes at 6 o'clock. And we have people that work past 6 o'clock, so how they get home from their jobs, and therefore they don't go to every place within the city. In Ward 1, they do not go down off the road. We need transportation down there too also. And for housing, right now we have a lot of people out there that can afford homes or apartments because they don't have enough money. And so we need to get with different kind of developers and contractors and try to talk with them and work with them and see if we can find some kind of way, find some kind of funding in order to help support for housing. Because everyone should be able to live into a home, a house that they feel, that they love, that they enjoy, because it's not fair to live somewhere where it's. Okay, so it's not fair for people to live in an area that is condemned and houses are beat up and broken glass. We all should be able to live in a house that we all can stay at home.
Mr. Harris?
So my three things are the violence that's in our community. Also the housing that's in our community. And a lot of our youth programs that we should have. Programs. The violence that's in our community is, it's just crazy. I live in Ward 1, right on my. Every night I sit in my truck after work. I get home around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I sit in my truck because I like to sit outside. And roughly about the same time, you can hear gunshots just about every night. It's nerve-wracking. I know a lot of people that I work with, a lot of the elderly folks, they have to walk home. That's a problem. That they can't be trusted to walk home by themselves. One of the things I would like to work on is having our community work with our police department, work with each other, stand up against the violence that we have in our community. As far as our youth doing schools, when there's schools out, these kids need a place to go. They need places they can work with. They need mentors. A lot of the people that I've talked to so far have said, hey, look, we need mentor programs. Let's be a part of that. Work with our constituents. Let's work with our young men and see if we can get them to do better. That's one of the things we need. As far as housing goes, I think it's a big issue. We're not millionaires. We can't all afford everything. Work 3 jobs. And cut back just to do this so that I can try to do my best to help our community. If we want better lives for our families, we have to work with people that's going to build a better life for our families. So that's what we do. We work with the people that you need to work with to help each other. And that's how we do things here.
Research reveals that life expectancy in 27260 is 17 years less than 27265. What are your thoughts about this statistic, and how and what policy will you champion to reverse this trend? Mr. Keeper.
First of all, I feel like if that 70% of people that are dying in 27260 and 27265 is living longer, when we check into our water system, we check into our lighting system, we need to find out why people in 27260 is dying quickly than other people. And it's because of shortage of grocery store. It's because they don't have good and healthy food or produce to eat. And 27265, they have stores all around it and go to and get healthy food to eat. But 27260, sometimes have a problem finding a way to get there. So I feel like that we need to stay committed, and we need to investigate and try to figure out why the ones in 27260 is dying quicker than the ones in 27265. And talk to the partner with the health department and other health agencies to find out why this is going on and what can we do to improve it, to make it better. And we need to work hard together, and as a group, we can find out and try to find a way to make it better.
Mr. Harris.
And I think that if we work with our community, I don't know a lot, but I know if we work with our community, the people within our community, we sit and we talk to each other. We know what's wrong with each other. We've all lived somewhat longer than others. if we can sit and deal with how we handle what we put in our bodies, how do we maintain these things? How do we get the community to back up some of these things by working with our constituents? Yes, we need food banks. Yes, we need these things, but we all have properties. We have people that have properties, gardens. We love our gardens. We can build, we can help each other to feed each other. That's one of the things that our community needs to do. We ask for everybody else to help us. We can do these things also on ourselves. If somebody in my neighborhood has a garden, hey, this neighbor down here likes these tomatoes. How can we help them grow the better fruits? We talk amongst our neighbors, and we help our neighbors grow these things. That's how we help prolong our lives. That's how we do the things we need to do by doing what we can.
Well, everything on this list that you sent me, we've been talking about for the last 20 years. Everything on here. So when are we gonna get together and start doing something? Okay, right now, Ward 1 is Ward 1, the new Ward 1 and the old Ward. The old one is the one that's pulling down the other. It's clear. There's no argument. The city of High Point started this crap in 1915. When they passed an ordinance forbidding colored inhabitants from certain areas of this city, and it hasn't changed. Wake up and look around and read your own history, and you'll find these things out. You can't make change unless you understand where you came from. It's nothing new. Nothing new. I want change, and I want change now. I'm tired of someone sending me a steak and it's only bone because people downtown got to eat. Wake up, folks. Make change that are positive. And what are we afraid of? What can they do to you? 10 years I went to every council meeting downtown. And most of the time I was there by myself. By myself. And we complain. As soon as I walk out the door, somebody complains. But they're quickly going inside. Folks, let's start standing up for what is ours. What is ours? And can I get an extension?
As we canvass in 27260, one concern many here of vicious dogs that chase people who leisurely walk through the neighborhood. People are having to carry bats and other protection to ward off the attacks of vicious dogs while simply walking in their neighborhood. How will you enforce policy to hold people that own vicious dogs accountable for tethering and leash laws currently in effect so that people are comfortable walking in their own neighborhoods without fear of being attacked by vicious dogs?
I'm sorry. Dogs is least of our concerns. There's children out there with guns in our community. You can't walk down the street. So we have animal control. We have people that can teach others about dogs. These are things, but my biggest concern is trying to keep our youth away from guns. That's more of my problem. I want my son to be able to go down the street at night. I told my son, hey, listen, if you're gonna leave the house, I'll walk with you. Because if he's gonna go, I'm gonna go with him. That's my concern. I understand that we have animals and things, but we train people to do better with their animals as well. But most important is violence. You can't walk down the street without getting up. There's crimes. Just recently, there was a shooting in my neighborhood, and I'm just surprised. It's a pipe and calf and a couple other people just to come around and knock on doors and help people. I'm more worried about the drugs and the violence.
dog on a leash. I do apologize.
Okay. Dogs. First of all, I want you to know how to start using the city clerk ordinances. Call down there when you have a problem. Call down and find out, read it, understand it. Now, you talk about vicious dogs, I have vicious chickens. I got vicious goats. And I saw 3 pigs the other day on the Deep River Road. And you're talking about dogs? What can I do about it? And this is the truth. 10 chickens in my backyard 2 weeks ago. I'm out there beating them with a damn meat trying to get them out. 6 o'clock every morning in my neighborhood, we are awakened by chickens. But you call downtown, oh, there's nothing, well, they're protected, but they don't know. You're supposed to keep them in the cage. Understand the ordinance. You can have chickens. Back in the day, they would live 10 minutes. Thank you, baby. They're on someone's plate. But now we are so compassionate about animals. Jesus Christ.
Okay, talking about, this is how chasing people. I know there are a lot of city that, but we don't know, this is a dog, it's somewhere I mean, anything, $50 up. But I could, comment on what Mr. Harris said, you know, about dogs and the crime that's going on in our city. A lot of times, you know, we look at dogs and we look at people. What's more important, what's more valuable? To me, people are more valuable than dogs. But, you know, people do look at dogs and stuff, but we need to find a way to work together and to work with our youth and our young kids and our young adult kids and try to find a way to help them to stop shooting each other, fighting each other. I was on the board of directors on juvenile crime prevention council. And we work together, with the city, we work together with the county. And when we met once a month, we had judges on our council, on our committee, we had police officers on our committee, we had sheriff. And our goal was to try to find programs and agencies that we can send our young people to get the help they need so they don't go to jail and try to prevent them from going to jail. And so the program we offer these kids, a lot of kids went to the program. And also that program also for kids that drop out of school. And when you get them in school, when they're out of school, continue getting in trouble. So kids gotta have something to do, you know, keep them busy, and we're trying to find this way to work together. And we got to come together. You know, we need to come together and find a way how we can get to be together and stop this shooting and killing, because it can't be done. But all we could put forth the effort and to work hard and work together as a city, as a community, to get this job done.
We're going to move into our questions from the audience, and these will be, the responses should be for 1 minute. How would you address the issue of lack of affordable health care resources for families who fall through the cracks, that make too much for Medicaid and not enough for private policy? Mr. Harris.
For me, I believe that we can all work together. There's nothing that I can personally do, but I can say that I can try my best. At the end of the day, it's what we can do as a group. I sit there and I strive, I work 2 jobs. I try my best. Sometimes I make too much, sometimes I make too little. Just like the little friends that I have that work for me when I'm working on the furniture market. Hey, I can't get a job, I can't get help here. How do I do this? Well, let me point you in the right direction. We have so many programs in this town, we can't communicate. If we all communicate, then we can get the help that people need.
You have a group over here that doesn't want to talk to this group. Communication is the key. You want to build a better community, communicate. You want to stop violence, communicate. You want to help people that don't have to, communicate. We all sit there and say, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that. Okay. Get up and walk out, and we can all go somewhere, we can help some people. That's on street right now. I'm going to communicate.
In 1945, we had 5 physicians, 2 attorneys, and 1 lawyer practicing in a 4-block area in Washington Street. Now we have 0. 0 in 27260. Why? What happened? Bethany Medical would put up a practice anyway, and they won't come to 27260. Why? We need medical care. We need some organization, some medical group to come in here. Remember that in the paper? They got the old food line building or whatever. And what happened? They started renovations, they stopped. We need some, a PA, we need somebody in that community, not downtown. Stop. Stop it.
But first, we need to do, we need to contact our senators. It's up in Washington, in Raleigh, because we need to get together and go to them and let them know that this, we got people with disabilities in the city of Point that is having a hard time getting help. And they make too much money to get Medicaid and don't have help. But we have to get together, get a petition, form communities, and go there and stand and talk to them. We can't stand around and go to these people and let them know what's going on in our city and our board, and we are falling short with healthcare. And we don't do anything about this, continue to sit here and accept it. It's not acceptable. We're gonna have to get together and go up and then petition or we're stand march on Broadway. But what we can do to help these people who cannot afford healthcare and it's too much in that.
Is how long have you been a resident of High Point, specifically in Ward? Mr. Harris?
I have lived in High Point, Ward 1 for about 5 years. I actually love that. I love my community. I love my neighborhood. Enjoy being here. I'm sad about some of the things that we've had to go through. I'm sad that I haven't got to meet all my neighbors, but I do care about it because my family lives there. And just like me, I want my friends and my neighbors to know that I live there to be safe. I want you to be safe. Whatever I have to do to make sure that's possible. That's my job. That's my way of life. So it's been an opportunity and a blessing to live in this town.
Mr. Davis?
I was born and raised here, college, 4 years, Charlotte, North Carolina, moved to DC, seeking gold, 18 years, I moved back home in 27260. I love it, despite everything bad that you've heard about it. I love it. My wife liked it, and I am not going to be chased out of my house. You can help me or you can be against me. If there are 2 people behind me, I'm going to win. I've been damned if somebody is going to, all the money I invested in that house, and I'm going to sit back and let some people downtown make decisions regarding it? No. I'm going to fight, wherever it is. I'm going to fight.
I'd like to move into our closing. Yes.
Okay, I live in High Point for 65 years, and I lived in Ward 1 for 30 years. Growing up in High Point, I seen High Point changed a lot, and I've seen some things that did not change. Growing up in Austin South, we were so proud to get a house that was affordable for a low income family to stay there. But now I go back over and look at the area and look on Green Street where I used to go and play and hang out and stuff. It's so dangerous right now. The buildings and stuff over there empty. They're not doing anything for the building. They're trying to improve the area on Main Street. Look at 5 Point. There's so much going on 5 Point. Need to be renovated, and we got the buildings out there, the land out there. It's just sitting there not doing it. So I feel like we can make changes with that by trying to get together with the developers and try to find ways to make a way for them to have homes or apartments or way a further way of living in places that right now, there's problems right now. We don't have. You can say that I'm working, you know.
We are going to move into closing remarks. Those are going to be for 2 minutes. And we're going to start with Mr. Chase.
Folks, I live in a very poor zip code. The biggest thing that we're faced with is poverty. Poverty rules everything. Everything on this list you sent me is poverty associated. It's poverty and economics. We have to learn that. Okay, don't be fooled. When I see older people going out, I've been giving out flyers and I've witnessed these things. Too afraid for me to go get food for her, but she's hungry. Sitting on the front porch and you tell me at 7:15 you got to go in the house because things get dangerous this time of night. And you spend your whole life wanting to enjoy something and when you got older, it's not fair. It's not fair. And we need to come together, we need to start little groups, small groups, church groups, whatever it takes to eliminate these problems. Okay? Everybody in 27260, every 4 point something hours, a crime is committed, a serious crime. That's true. 3 more minutes. It was 2, wasn't it? 2 more?
You have 43 seconds. 42 seconds.
Oh, yes. No, seriously. The one thing that I want us to do is address poverty. Poverty, keep that in mind. Everything is around poverty. The city's not going to do it. They can only do so much. I don't think they're doing the right things. So that makes a difference. You created the problem that I'm in, straighten it out. And I can prove what you did. I read every page. The city council records from 1859 to 1971, and I know the good, bad, and ugly in this town. So you have to shape up.
I just want to say that, looking over the city of California and seeing the changes going on, majority of the changes in what's going on is down on the North Main side. We seem to forget about the South side. You go down North Main Street, all kind of restaurants, car dealership, food places, and it's always in need and in order. And if you go down to the center, you know, we got baseball field, we got restaurants there at baseball field. It's really nice too. But then when you go down farther down on South Main Street, what do we have down South Main Street? We have abandoned buildings, we have buildings that's deteriorating. We have a restaurant down there on South Side, on South Main Street. So we're gonna come together. I want all of them to be successful. I think that we need to work together and support each other with both sides. All of them can come together and work together because right now, one side is getting more than the other side. So in order to make it better, we got to come together and work together as citizens of High Point, because the only way we can accomplish anything is you gotta work hard for it. You need to get out and go and find, talk to people about it. Because one or two people cannot do it. We need more people to get involved. We need churches to get involved. We need agencies to get involved. Because High Point can be a better city than it is right now if we all work together and strive as hard as we can to make High Point a very successful city and a city to be really proud of. Thank you.
Mr. Harris.
I'm gonna just tell you a little bit. I'm 42 years old. I'm originally from New Jersey. When I grew up in foster care. I did 39 foster homes. By the time I turned 10 years old, I didn't know how to read or write. I had a foster family taking me in, changed me. 18, I got to do a lot of things. I went to military school. I had to learn a lot of things. I had my kids. I've lost a son. I've struggled. But here I am right here now. Something I never thought I would do. If I can make these adjustments and changes in my life, and I can sit up here and talk to you, we're going through so much now. Everybody has gone through things, but for me, that was a hard take away from my mother when I was 4 years old. I really talked. But I tell you this, I pray, and I'm really thankful for what I have. I'm grateful for what I have here. Friends, a community, people that I can trust, and a town that I can get behind. I haven't had a lot, but I have this understanding. I can listen, I can learn, do what is needed for people that need that. If you're willing to do that with me. Things we need to change in this town, violence is helping our youth. We have a men's huddle that we go to every Wednesday. That's the thing. It gets us as men to help each other to build our community. We have people in this town that we need to communicate with. Let's do that. We all have things we want in life, we want to strive for. Just strive to help people. And that's what I want to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the close of our candidate forum. This has been a labor of love for me. I am elated that all of you have stayed and engaged and feel that this is important enough to see it through. And we are so thankful for that. Just a few announcements. This time around, we go to the polls twice. We go to the polls for the municipal election, and we have the general election. I really stress to everyone, early voting starts on September 21st. Please go out and vote your conscience. What we try to do is provide a platform for you to make an informed decision. So have these discussions with your family, your friends, your church family, so that you can exercise that right to vote. We want to thank Pastor Robert Williams, High Point Humanitarian of the Year. He so graciously allows us to use this beautiful facility for the forum. Thank High Point Enterprise for their presence. I don't know if WGHP got here or not. They were supposed to be here. There will be some information on the news tonight. Thank the League of Women Voters of the Piedmont and their Vote 411.org cards that will give you some information on the profile of all the candidates. Thank you, Major Truitt from High Point Police Department. He might not be here, but he was here with us today. And thank the members of High Point NAACP for your continued presence and support. We have a team of dedicated people that get the job done. I say to them, much of the time, they are working like a well-oiled machine. They are getting the job done, and they are working very hard for this community. And we're gonna ask every one of you that's here, if you're not a member of the NAACP, join the work. We can utilize you in every aspect of everything we're doing, because we are doing a lot here in this community. And in closing, all questions displayed in the candidate form reflect the condition of the areas of the city of High Point, populated primarily by Black people and people of color. I leave you with a call to action. You know, we go to a lot of meetings, and we have dialogue, and we leave. But I'm going to leave you with a call to action. I'm going to ask each and every candidate, as you embark upon this electoral journey, as you move into your respective positions, will you find it in your heart to feel the pain and address the concerns that have been set forth tonight, because they have been many? We extend again an opportunity for you to join the NAACP to help us in this battle, if you will, for democracy, for all the things that each and every one of you and your family deserve: a decent house, transportation, safety, security. All of those things are part of the American dream. But as you can hear tonight, some of our people in our communities are not participating in that. And it is up to us to ensure that they do participate. Thank you so much for attending. And good night. Yes. Well, we have a sheet back there that's going to give you all of that information. I hope that you can run out. But yes, voter ID is now required, and you can get a free voter ID done at the Board of Elections on Russell Street in Michael.